Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we are back. It's that time of week. Hashtag TGIFF. Thank goodness it's Freaky Friday. And thank goodness I have Joe Joseph and the one and only Scotty Lopez here. Look at Joe. Look at him sitting there, you know, smiling away to himself with a little heart content. What's happening, guys?
Yes, Joe looks deep in thought.
Doesn't he?
I am very deep in thought. Thank you very much.
It almost looks like a form of Yoda meditation going on there.
You can call it that.
You better watch, Joe. That might be some like hand signal that means something we don't know yet. You resting your face and that like that. I don't know.
I'm sure they'll figure something out.
Of
right?
course
They'll call it something.
And it might even be 20 years from now, but they'll still come back and get you for it retrospectively. They'll say you knew that was going to be a thing in the future, Joe. Yes, indeed. So are we looking forward?
I should have known better.
Are we looking forward to another Freaky Friday right here on TFRlive.com, gents?
I am. How about you, Scott?
Absolutely. I always look forward to Freaky Friday.
Good stuff. And I have got a really, really interesting little kind of story I came across to open up with after we go into the chat room. This is a tradition here on Freaky Friday. We go to the Wookiee Cave over at TFRlive.com, and we're going out on the website, TFRlive.com, iHeartRadio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn radio apps, and simulcasting over at YouTube. And if you want to have a simulcast experience in the chat room, 2 chat rooms for the price of none, then all you do is go to tfrlive.com/chat, and you can be in there with all the Wookiees, such as our good friend Alan, who called into the Kev Baker show during the week, Paradoxical Anomaly. We've got Spread Love 911, boys. I like that. The one and only, the infamous Silimo. Loving your blog, Sil. Anytime you've got any new work that you want us guys to read out here, just send it on through, brother. We've got Bam in there, the amazingly wonderful Shih Tzu Bigaloo 2. We've got the Wookiee, All One, Cold Brews, Melissa, and the Eager Legend. Do you think that means that person, he, she, it, they, is keen to be a legend? Are they eager to be a legend, or are they just eager to get into legends?
Are they a legend that is eager? Or
just eager, yeah, just eager in general. Well, it's funny we start there, right? Because it's a legend stroke myth that I want to start the show with tonight. And that might sound a bit strange. It's not really the way we kick things off. We usually kind of slowly work our way into stuff. But I think you are all going to appreciate this one, because just before the show today, I was made aware of a new scientific paper that's out, right? And it ties in with something really, really interesting from the past. So, have you guys heard of the mandrake plant?
Yes.
What was that? What was that movie? Mandrake! Don't drink the water, Mandrake! It's fluoridated!
Can't remember, dude. Not one.
Yeah, and you know, we were discussing the mandrake before, right? In terms of it being referred, you know, that dragons were.
Well, this is why it stood out to me, dude. This is why it really, really stood out to me, because I thought, wow, now there's a connection, because mandrake coming along one after the other, like that. You have to pay attention to that, right? So for anyone who doesn't know, it says mandrake is a root plant historically derived either from the plants of the genus Mandragora, found in the Mediterranean region, or from other species such as Bionia alba. Now, that's okay, but I want us to look at the legends that surround this little plant, or the mandrake root in particular, okay? Because it says on its wiki page here, magic and witchcraft. Now, according to legend, let me just blow this up a bit so I can see it a bit better. According to legend, when the root is dug up, it screams and kills all who hear it. Literature includes a complex directions for harvesting a mandrake root in relative safety. For example, Josephus of Jerusalem.
Yeah, it has a long history of poison, dude.
Okay, but it says here, like, let's pay attention to the part where it says, according to legend, when the root is dug up, it screams and kills all who hear it, okay?
Wow.
Pretty cool. And then there is this new scientific paper come out. And it says, plants emit informative airborne sounds when under stress. Now, this was just published on the 2nd of December, and it says that stressed plants show altered phenotypes, including changes in color, smell, and shape. Yet, the possibility that plants emit airborne sounds when stressed, similarly to many animals, has not been investigated. Here we show, to our knowledge for the first time, that stressed plants emit airborne sounds that can be recorded remotely, both in acoustic chambers and in greenhouses. And we recorded 65 decibels of ultrasonic sounds, 10 centimeters from tomato and tobacco plants, implying that these sounds could be detected by some organisms from up to several meters away. We then developed machine learning models that were capable of distinguishing between plant sounds and general noises, and identifying the condition of the plants, whether they're dry, cut, or intact, based solely on the emitted sounds. Now, our results suggest that animals, humans, and possibly even other plants could use sounds emitted by a plant to gain information about the plant's condition. And then you come down here and it shows you little diagrams of what they've done. And you can see they've got 3 tomato plants in an acoustic box, and they've got microphones 10 centimeters from them. And they're literally making a noise when they're getting stressed. Now, I say
question
to you,
though. I say question. Is the machine learning trying to translate said sounds?
no, well, it's trying to interpret what the sounds mean.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Not that the sounds are there. The sounds are coming, but it's trying to distinguish if there's a difference between different stresses put on the plant. Now, remember, Joe, this might be the slightest difference that to the human eye and to the human ear, maybe we wouldn't see it, but there might be something with the timing, something that the algorithm may or may not pick up that possibly we wouldn't see or hear.
Is it actually a sound coming from the plant, or is it air moving over the plant creating a sound? Because if the plant is stressed, the surface area is going to change because the plant changes when it's stressed.
Well, I would imagine with it being in an acoustic box, there isn't going to be much environmental stresses on it. And
so it's literal noise coming from the plant.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we often, listen, I'm not saying that our science today is proving the mandrake legend of the past, but we often say that, in the past, stories were written, things like that, for information to be passed on. And you just never know, guys. You just never know. Is it likely that the plant was screaming and killing people, or could that just have been an indication that the plants actually do make noises? I don't know. I thought it was an interesting one to open up with tonight. I thought it was quite good. Not woo, but almost science bringing woo to life.
Where does one find a mandrake plant?
Let's see here. They'll probably tell us up the top here, I would imagine. Mediterranean mandrakes are perennial herbaceous plants with ovate leaves arranged in a rosette, a thick upright root, often branched, and bell-shaped flowers, followed by yellow or orange berries. Now, they have been placed in different species by different authors for highly variable perennial herbaceous plants with long, thick roots, again it says, and almost no stem. Let's see. Because mandrakes contain deliriant hallucinogenic tropane alkaloids, and the shape of the roots are often resemble human figures, they have been associated with a variety of superstitious practices throughout history. They have long been used in magical rituals, and today also in contemporary pagan traditions such as Wicca and Odinism. But I'm not sure where exactly you locate these things.
I'm sure it like originated from the Mediterranean, but I'm sure it's like a common plant that is kind of spread throughout, that it has spread throughout the world.
Well,
or
there's
something.
Jacob in the Bible talking about, thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired 3 with my sons mandrakes. See, is that a dragon though? Because the mandrake was the dragon as well. I'm not saying there were dragons at the time of like the Bible and that, Joe. You would know far better than me, okay? But it is spoke about there, and then it goes on to say, where is it now? In medieval times, mandrake was considered a key ingredient in a multitude of witches' flying ointment recipes, as well as a primary component of magical potions and brews. And these were entheogenic preparations used in European witchcraft for their mind-altering and hallucinogenic effects. Oh yeah. Starting in the late Middle Ages, and therefore some believe that witches applied these ointments or ingested these potions to help them fly together with other witches, meet with the devil, or to experience bacchanalian carousel. What the heck is that?
I don't know. It's interesting here. It says, what's mandrake plant used for? People take European mandrake root for treating stomach ulcers, colic, constipation, asthma, hay fever, convulsions, arthritis-like pain, and whooping cough.
Wow.
And it's also used to trigger vomiting, cause sleepiness, reduce pain, and increased interest in sexual activity. It says, what is a mandrake plant in the Bible? Mandrake, the Mandragora officinalis, is a strange plant mentioned only in Genesis 30:14 and Songs of Songs 7:13, although it's a common plant in many parts of Israel. As the Bible so accurately describes, the mandrake often grows as a weed in the wheat fields. So there you go. So I guess it's fairly common in the Middle East too.
Sounds like it.
The mandrake, it says, is one of 2,500 species belonging to the Solanaceae family, which also contains tomatoes, potatoes, chilies, aubergines, thank you, peppers, tobacco, deadly nightshade, and henbane.
It's an interesting plant, right?
Yeah, very much so. They all contain powerful alkaloids that affect the human body. So what drug is made from mandrake? It says etoposide is a semi-synthetic derivative of podophyllatoxin, an alkaloid from the May apple or mandrake plant.
Very interesting.
It's very interesting.
I think so. I thought it was quite interesting that we've almost got correlation of the, or some sort of primary now, something that might suggest that plants are making noises, Scott. And then think of what we say about the fungi and the forests all communicating and things. I don't know, dude. It just makes sense that things, if they were in harmony, would communicate.
What you call rabbit with curly willy? Foot's funny.
Yes, indeed. Cheers for that, DJ. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's possible. I mean, I'm not like totally shocked that plants would emit a sound. It probably has to do with the plants resonating at a certain vibration and emanating a sound, right? So when they're under stress, they probably change the vibration probably changes in the plant, and they emit some sort of a sound. And who knows what if this is a way for to induce pollination, right? What if there are certain insects and stuff that pick up on these sounds when they're close to a plant, and they go, "Oh, hey, I need to land on this because it's
Big
emitting
time.
a sound that attracts me," right?
Big time, Scott, big time. And I think I watched a YouTuber today. It's the Russian guy. He usually does space videos. He was covering this and he was talking about the water in the stem and things, and how there's little bubbles in there. How possibly they might get excited, or they in some way might be vibrating. So yeah, really cool, man. Really cool.
So basically, I mean, the plant could be communicating. It's basically shouting, "Hey, land on me, land on me."
Pretty much, dude, pretty much.
The bugs, or the bees or whatever's flying by, oh, okay, or if the plant is under stress and is about to die, right? Isn't that around the time when plants drop their seeds, or they need to kind of pollinate? So it would make sense that they would be putting out some kind of a warning that, hey, I'm about to kill over
Brown chicken, brown cow.
yeah, brown chicken, brown cow. Yeah, very interesting, very interesting.
Hey, I thought it would be a nice little kind of. I didn't think we'd spend that long on it, right enough. But
Pretty
as
cool.
as the show tonight progresses as well, I got a
Yeah.
whole heap of topics that we can litter in throughout the show, including remote viewing, lucid dreaming, Antarctica, prophecy coming to pass, Joe, in these times, the asteroid Apophis, dinosaurs living at the same time as man. You spoke about that before, right? The footprint of the dinosaur, and then you got the footprint of the dude as well.
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, geez, I was just watching a YouTube video. I think James Cameron did on the Exodus, and so based on his research and this movie, they kind of laid it all out and just made the justification. Heck yeah, this is real, and all of this happened, and they show the evidence for it, and it's pretty compelling. So yeah.
Pretty cool. What do you think, Scott? Do you reckon dinosaur roamed with man, dude?
I think. What do you think, Scott? I mean, do you think it's dragon, or do you think it's dinosaur?
I think I think there are too many legends and tales and different things from different cultures around the world referring to dragons or lizard type creatures, to suggest that there was something that was dinosaur like that walked amongst men at some point, right? That there may have been some, because see, I personally think it's kind of ridiculous to say that every single dinosaur was wiped out by the meteor, right? There had to be something that survived. I mean, there actually is something.
It's the same thing like with the flood, right? The flood was devastating. It was a global event, but there were living things that survived, including humans.
Yeah. I mean, look, we still have creatures to this day that survive that. Alligators, crocodiles, most of the lizard species were still around during the dinosaur times, and they managed to survive that asteroid hit or whatever, whatever took place. So I'm just saying, I think it's completely possible that there was these remnant species that did survive. Maybe they didn't survive, too much longer afterwards, but they probably survived somewhat during the time when humans were roaming the earth as well. So I think it's totally possible that dinosaurs and humans probably interacted at some point.
I find it interesting, especially over in South America, the kind of serpent symbology and architecture and things like that. I think that definitely hints at something of that. Yeah, exactly. Scott.
You got too much going on. I mean, you have ancient Chinese culture talking about dragons. You've got
time.
South American culture talking about dragons, or basically, lizard creatures or serpents, and you see it in Europe as well. Dragons, and there's just too much. There's too much, right? It's for all of these civilizations that were supposed to be isolated from each other, all talking about the same thing. It's just, once again, it goes back to that, to where it's like, come on. It's just,
well, it's all evidence. It's all evidence in plain sight too. And you talk about like first world problems. He put this article in Discord about the giants of Cornwall, and interestingly enough, you've got footprints, you've got skeletons, you've got skulls down in South America, like you were saying, and then of course you've got all of the stories and the traditions, like the Indians saying how to count the fingers of people because they knew the six-fingered, six-toed giants were nasty and they didn't want to deal with them. So
they already had extinguished.
They already had killed a bunch of their people, so they stay away from them. And so these things we live with, and we hear these stories, oftentimes not relating it to the true history of how they came about. But the evidence is all around us, guys.
I watched an interesting show the other day. I think it was called Mysteries of the Outdoors, and coincidentally enough, guess who was on that show? Brad Olson.
Oh, fantastic! One of two people that I've spoken to that has been to Antarctica. Hey, quite rare you get to speak to one, but two's not bad, Scott.
So this kind of ties in because, well, the episode he was on, they were talking about Chaco Canyon, which is a whole thing in itself. But there was another part of the show where they were talking about Yellowstone National Park, and this was kind of getting into the 411 missing stuff. And this is all going to tie in here in just a second, so this will kind of blow your mind. But
he didn't eat a mandrake plant, did he?
well, he wasn't on. He wasn't on the Yellowstone episode, but
I see.
yeah, but of course. But they were speculating because people were going missing in Yellowstone, right? And I think that they have said that in total, at least since they've been keeping records, there have been like 900 people that have went missing in Yellowstone. And they were talking about these two guys that witnessed, by all accounts, from what they described, and I guess there was some other people around them too that witnessed it as well. But it looked like they had seen a pterodactyl.
Whoa!
Flying Yellowstone.
Whoa! I'll tell you something though, something similar to that, Joe. There was a video we looked at not too long ago. It was one of these videos, a compilation of when you see this, you know something strange is happening. One of these really clickbait titles that I love and you can't resist, right? It's like anomalous weather and hailstones in Saudi Arabia.
Oh man!
And it's something
We're all gonna die.
Yeah, something apocalyptic, like like a heat wave in Scotland, that kind of stuff going on. Do you know what I mean?
Are you serious?
Well, it showed you like it said Dubai, Saudi somewhere, but I swear this looked like something out of Game of Thrones, i.e., dragonish. And I get it. I get CGIs are easy to do, Scott. But there was just something about it. And I don't know, it just caught my attention. And when it comes to Freaky Friday, we throw it into the mix. It's good woo to throw in there.
we have to go there on Freaky Friday.
You
know?
have to throw it
And-
out there, right? It's good.
Yeah, you got to. And the thing is, I thought this was interesting because so they were talking about these people going missing in Yellowstone, right? And they were talking about this case, I think that happened in like 2010 or 2013, something like that. And this guy and his wife were out there, and like she literally was just like walking behind him, and he turned around and boom, she was gone. And like just within 15 minutes, he was, already in contact with park rangers, and I think within 2 hours they already had helicopters in the air looking for her, and they couldn't find her, right? And she was literally just pretty much walking behind him, and he went up just a little ways and turned around, boom, she was gone.
Like claw
Yeah,
stalks.
the thing is that they ended up finally finding her after I can't remember how long it was, but it was like crazy because they already had search parties and everything going very, very shortly after she was reported missing. I mean, like I said, within 2 hours, they had helicopters.
That's 411-ish. That is very 411-ish. Just
Yeah, very much so.
blink of the eye, you're gone.
Yeah.
So they ended up finding her. I think
Hold that thought. We're out of time. We'll be back after these short messages, folks. You know it's going to be a good one when time goes fast.
Time
We'll be right back.
goes fast.
Oh,
So-
yes, indeed. So we're still here on YouTube,
So-
obviously, boys.
So
you
we
know.
are. Yeah, so while we're here on YouTube, Kev, and
No-
just for YouTube, check out that video I just put there for you. Just play a little bit of that. Now that was at opening day for a Korean national
Oh,
baseball team.
Yeah, I remember
And-
we looked at this before. This is awesome.
Remember that? Yeah, I mean, that's literal like hologram.
Hang on. I need to get it up. Hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is
sorry.
a hologram. So these people are actually experiencing this. This is not just on a video screen.
Joe, while we watched that, there was actually another one done just recently with it was like a flaming lion walking along the top of an arena. You're muted up, man.
I know, I'm talking to the brain at the same time, Kev. Sorry.
Well, you see that? You see, you need to be able to multitask.
I know.
Joe.
It was... What?
There's been one done with a lion burning,
Yeah.
walking across
Okay.
the top of a stadium as well.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, there's also, I guess the thing is look at, first of all, think about the type of bandwidth that it takes to generate a hologram like that, and the lasers and everything else. And now it's really that easy. I mean, wow.
Yep.
You know?
This
So-
is where the digital world starts to overlay the real world.
So- Exactly. So now, if you think about it, with this kind of technology out there like this, what do you need Google Glass for? You don't need that, right? Once you miniaturize this technology and make it available to everybody, now all of a sudden, you have
There you go.
advertisements.
Look at that, Joe. Look at that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the other one.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
Yep. Big time. It's
But
almost
I mean,
time to go back.
that's where we
to-
are, right?
Yeah. I'm just watching the clock. I thought we'd ran out of time. We've still got a minute before we go
Yeah,
back.
so when you look at when people still bring up Bluebeam, I find it comical because we're so far past that. So far past that. I mean, the technology is advanced to the point where we really can't tell what's real and what's not anymore.
And I mean, Bluebeam, never forget what Bluebeam originally was. It was a Canadian writer that proposed the plan, like we often do. How would they bring about, some calamity, some global event where they could pull everyone together? And that's what came out. I can't remember the name of the guy who actually first kind of... something tells me Benoit, but I keep thinking about the wrestler. Remember the wrestler, the late Chris Benoit, the late wrestler? I've got that name stuck in my head. I can't get past that. So if I find the name, but it's interesting, like you say. But with all this digital world over the reality, they can do what they want now. Anything they want. And if you can't touch it, then I don't know how you really you can test whether it is physically solid or. And like you were saying, Scott, they're making these holograms where they are solid now. You literally get a feedback from them. So
Yeah, they're using acoustic levitation now
Right.
to
time to get back. I forgot.
check these things.
Here we go. Bring us in, Joe.
Yes, we're back, and it is Freaky Friday on your protection from deception, TFRlive.com. Before the break, Scotty, you had the floor.
Yes, so I was talking about this incident that occurred out in Yellowstone. Or I
Right.
was watching this show called Mysteries of the Outdoors, and it was pretty interesting because they were getting kind of into the 411 stuff going on in the old forests there. And so this lady had went missing. She just basically disappeared, just from right behind her husband. I mean, just vanished. They had search parties out looking for her, couldn't find her, helicopters, everything. But then finally, somebody came across her body, and she was. I think they had found her about 1.5 miles away from where she went missing, and she was in a very, very remote, like an area that would be extremely difficult for anybody to hike to or walk to. You know what I mean? It was only the most like rugged of like fishermen and explorers even go down in that area or whatever. So it was like, if she got lost, they don't even know how she would have gotten to that place. So then they got into the two guys that spotted what appeared to be a pterodactyl, and there was a lot of speculation of, was she snatched? Just like, did this thing come down, swoop down, and pick her up, fly away with her, and then drop her body right in an area? Because if it's just flying over an area and it just drops her body, then she's just going to land in some remote spot that humans don't really walk around. And so there was a lot of kind of speculation going on, obviously, in the show about, is this maybe some of the explanation to some of these missing people? Is there a predator-like creature that is swooping down and grabbing people?
Dude,
And
this
then-
is like a new one. This is cool.
Yeah, it is really cool, and I never thought of it from that perspective. And remember, they said that they found some of these people, or some of the children too, that have went missing. That they found them at like super high altitudes, right? That they find them on the top of mountains and things like that. And they're wondering if maybe some kind of a prey animal or some kind of a creature is grabbing them and taking them up to like maybe where their nest is or where they live, and so they would probably who knows, but I thought that was a very, very interesting angle, that maybe there's still pterodactyls that may be flying around. And
Listen, if we're
swooping.
open, if we've got our minds open to Sasquatch or any other cryptids out there, I don't see why any should be ruled out. Why not? And especially at a time when we're talking about dimensions merging and worlds colliding, why couldn't we be experiencing things like that?
That's right.
And even if it isn't a pterodactyl, right? I mean, you heard the legends of like the Thunderbird, right?
Yeah,
From the native.
yeah.
Are we just talking about some massive bird of prey, that's flying around out there? Just some unknown species, basically.
Do you think, how we often say how past, present, and future, it's all happening at once? Do you think maybe with by whatever process, be it particle accelerators, quantum computers, some other science we don't know about that they're playing about with, some natural phenomenon, just the time we're in, it's almost as if now we're starting to see all of that happening. It used to be, it's all going on at once, but we're in our time now. But now we're starting to see like the future playing out. The future's almost condensing towards us, and things from the past, like Scott's talking about. I don't know. It's just weird. It's like everything's coming like meeting in the
Kind of
middle.
feels that way. It kind of feels that way. There's a convergence.
Yeah, that's the word. That's the
It's
word.
convergence.
A
Yeah,
compression.
everything is
It's like
kind of.
everything's compressing into the now.
You know how they say that, modern science says Big Bang happens, universe expands, and that eventually it's going to start to contract until it goes back again. And it's this cyclical thing where it just keeps on boom and expanding and contracting and boom, expanding, contracting and boom.
Maybe.
And
How do we know?
we don't know.
No. Who knows?
But anyway,
We could be
that's
floating about on some kind of cell in the bloodstream of an organism somewhere, for all we know.
absolutely. Yeah, you don't know, but
Exactly.
I can say that that it certainly has, at least in my humble opinion, picked up in intensity the amount of incidents that are occurring. And then, I say, at a minimum, you're dealing with at least the natural aspect of things, in that I would have to say there's probably a natural way that portals open up, that gates to other dimensions open up, that humorous things on other computers open up.
I think Angie's just sitting laughing at you.
Yeah, she's not laughing at me.
There she is. She told me, she messaged me on Facebook. She's like, look at that, Joe. Look at him.
Now she's laughing at herself.
Now she's raging at me. Is that
Oh,
that
yeah,
Baker?
yeah,
Is that
Yeah,
Baker
Kev
dragging?
Baker, if
Yeah.
it wasn't for that accent.
I know, dragging her into the show again. I know. My bad, Ange, my bad. I'll give myself 12 lashings with the Wookiee for that.
But when you brought up the Firebird, think about it. There could have just been natural times or these natural stargates that open up and out comes the Firebird and back in goes the Firebird and the Firebird's not seen for another 500 years before it comes out again. That kind of thing. So who knows? That. But I can tell you now that there's just more opportunity for these things to occur just because of the amount of experimentation that goes on.
Dude, they're not like bringing monkey pigs to term over in China that they're telling us about. Who honestly knows what's going on anywhere in the world? Not just China, anywhere.
That's a problem.
Well, I was
that's
doing a
problem.
story last night that is quite disturbing, but something that I suppose there was a big fear of, and it was to do with the CRISPR-Cas9, that test back in 2018 when they had the first IVF embryos and they made them more resistant to that nasty disease. Well, now they're coming to find that the tweak that they've done has had a domino effect, and there's a 27% more chance now that they'll die at a younger age. And that's just in that first generation where the splice took. No knowing what happens if they were to have children, and again that is passed on. What
Exactly
that may knock
right.
into,
Is
Again,
that the
again, I wouldn't rubbish the science, because if they get a handle on that, it could eradicate some things, and that's going to be good.
is that the twins that they had?
Yeah, yes, Scott. Yeah.
I mean, very interesting. I mean, obviously that there was going to be a knock on it. You can't just play God like that and then
That was
think
in
that
Wired.com, Scott. Wired had it. They
Yeah.
were talking about it.
and think that it's going to be perfect because you're playing about with genetics and remember they say that 90% is junk DNA. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Everything has a reason. There's a reason for everything.
Joe,
It's not junk DNA.
Joe, do you reckon they would be mad enough to bring up, like, reanimate an Nephilim or a giant? Do you think they would be mad enough to try that?
Yeah, but you have to remember when they existed, the world was a different place. The planet was different. Everything was different. So if we're arrogant,
Joe, look around you. They're changing the planet.
I get it, but not to that point. Not to that point. You know what I mean? I mean, it was incredibly different.
But see when it says, like, see when they describe giants and feet in the Bible, How do we know that a foot back at that time was the same as a foot is nowadays?
You don't. Well, you know that like the Bible talks about they have units of measurement, and we know how long or what that unit of measurement is. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but
We also thought we knew 2012 was the date that back. My point being, there might be a region of error.
oh, I'm sure, but even so, you think about it, woolly mammoth. Does a woolly mammoth survive? Now, you know what I mean? Can it survive?
Yeah, but where's the bones of these big things, man? They should be like everywhere.
Smithsonian burned them all.
I'm thinking maybe they exaggerated the size of them to maybe almost make people think it was ridiculous. But there actually were more 12 to 18 foot things with the ginger hair and the giant of Kandahar type thing. I'm not ruling them out at all. I'm just thinking maybe, you know, they were, and that then we could have them coming back as opposed to the big 500 foot tall ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, imagine a platoon of them coming onto the battlefield all wired up together with their neural implants. No thanks.
They probably do have a Nephilim cloned somewhere in a.
Didn't they say they found Gilgamesh or something like that?
Hey, that rings a bell, Joe. I'll try and dig it up.
I think there was a conspiracy theory about finding Gilgamesh's body in the desert or something like that. Yeah.
It's
There it is.
BBC, so it could be lies. Here we go. It says archaeologists in Iraq, and it comes from 2003. Oh, hang on now. 2003. That would have been around about the time we were like doing things over in Iraq as well, isn't it? No, that was
absolutely.
Yeah,
It was.
Yeah,
we were still there. We were still very much there.
Yeah.
And remember, it was during the second conflict that the museum was ransacked and
That yeah. So this
that happened about the same time. And what they said was that through ransacking the museum, they were able to find evidence of where Gilgamesh was buried, and then they went right there. And rumor has it that they found Gilgamesh, they took him back, and they're trying to clone him.
So
you're talking about.
We went back into. I was going to say, well, you know, we went back into Iraq in 2003, right? So that's when Iraq 2.0 took place. So I wonder if this story came out before we invaded or after we invaded.
April 29th. It was a German-led expedition. Hey, that's not the first German expedition out to get ancient artifacts, right? Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah. Very interesting.
A German-led expedition has discovered what is thought to be the entire city of Uruk, including where the Euphrates once flowed, the last resting place of its famous king. Quote, I don't want to say definitely it was the grave of King Gilgamesh, but it looks very similar to what that described in the epic. That comes from Jorg Fassbinder of the Bavarian Department of Historical Monuments in Munich. Yeah. Das ist good, yeah, BBC World Service. Yes, so there you go. Magnetic in the book. Now this is weird because we were talking on the stream earlier on about the potential for the Chelyabinsk meteorite to have magical powers. There's a video of it in a museum where the lid lifts up mysteriously and goes down again. Listen, you can't prove anything by that. It's no doubt a security feature like people pointed out to me earlier on. However, magnetic. It says in the book, actually a set of inscribed clay tablets. No, it's not the emerald. It's not, Joe, is it?
That is not the emerald. The enamel tablets of Tooth. No.
Surely not. Gilgamesh was described as having been buried under the Euphrates in a tomb apparently constructed when the waters of the ancient river parted following his death. We found just outside the city an area in the middle of the former Euphrates River, the remains of such a building which could be interpreted as a burial, Mr. Fassbinder said. And he said the amazing discovery of the ancient city under the Iraqi desert has been made possible by modern technology. Yeah, that and a really good reason to be going in there. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was about I was about to say, man, oh, look, we found all this stuff. And then next thing you know,
Voila!
looks like
Yeah. Dun, dun,
looks
dun,
like
dun, dun,
it's a little
dun,
bit of
dun.
freedom.
See if something like that ever like starts laughing when you roll the tomb door back. Run, boys! That's a curse coming at you. That's the
Yeah.
Kev Schmiegel. Yes, indeed. So it says here, by differences in magnetism in the soil, you can look into the ground. So they're obviously using some form of geomapping, aren't they? Probably running over, or LiDAR maybe.
That's what it
Use that
looks
as well.
like, and if you think about it, that's probably one of the best ways to do it, considering it's an old riverbed.
You can also tell, see when that, like, even if it was hundreds of years ago, I was watching this on Oak Island, but if something was dug up or ground was disturbed, you can still tell because the layers of sediment and the layers of like magnetic kind of minerals and stuff, they're disturbed. It's fascinating how they can do this. It truly is. It's like literally looking into the past if you know how to interpret that stuff. Pretty cool. It says the difference between mud bricks and sediment in the Euphrates River gives a very detailed structure. This creates a magnetogram which is then digitally mapped, effectively giving a town plan of Uruk. That's amazing. Venice in the desert. The most surprising thing was that we found structures already described by Gilgamesh. We covered more than 100 hectares, and we have found garden structures and field structures as described in the epic, and we found Babylonian houses. But he said the most astonishing find was an incredibly sophisticated system of canals. Primitive people,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Those there's the brass saws and chisels.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Very clearly, we can see that in the canal some structures showing that flooding destroyed some houses, which means it was a highly developed system. So there you go.
Say it ain't so.
Say it ain't so. And I just said it is so shut it. Pretty
It was
interesting,
like,
though.
but it says it was like a Venice in the desert. Now think about that. Think about the technology that you would actually need to be able to construct a Venice in the desert.
Oh,
Really?
you mean kind of like how we have
Like,
our
like canals and
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, because the first thing that pops to my mind is the incredible technological undertaking that countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia have to invest into raising these cities up in the middle of the desert, right?
Think about it. It's a huge undertaking, absolutely enormous. As a matter of fact, when Gaddafi brought water to Libya from to Tripoli, it was a tremendous undertaking and a huge expense to bring water to the desert. But he did it, and that's what these other countries have done. Is they've really built up. Look at Dubai now, and Qatar, and Riyadh. They're all just these unbelievable cities now. Kuwait City is just another. They're unbelievable places.
But another aspect we also have to look at, though, is was the climate the same at the time? Was it really desert?
Yeah. I don't believe so, honestly.
Yeah.
So
Were we talking about an area where actually it was fertile land, and it wasn't really much of a desert like it is now,
Right.
and slowly over time the climate has shifted. So I think you have to look at that aspect too. But still, I mean, they obviously went through it was a major undertaking to create this city, and
yeah.
it was definitely involved a lot more than just a bunch of people, banging rock tools together and it was a lot more advanced than what we're led to believe.
Big time. Now that makes me think of a story though back round about that time. Well, not that time, but it was to do with Egypt, and the cone heads. We've talked about like the binding of the skulls and things like that, and the elongated skulls. Get the Egyptians doing this. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Let me just pull up Discord. I think it was Jason again. What a source of woo this cat is definitely proven to be. Let's see now if I just scroll up, I'll get to it. Let me see here. There we go. I've got it here, Joe. And then I'll open it up. There we go. I've not actually looked at this, but I remembered seeing Jason had posted it. Ancient Egyptians really did wear head cones. So archaeologists have discovered 2 skeletons, I think it said there, yep. 2 skeletons wearing head cones, often depicted in ancient Egyptian art. Featured in murals, coffins, stelae, and other works of Egyptian art dating back to between 3,570 and 2,000 years ago. These curious head cones had long remained something of an enigma. And it says, now though, the discovery of skeletons wearing these unusual items of headwear has finally confirmed that they were indeed real hats worn by people at the time. Dating back 3,300 years, the remains were earthed in the city of Akhenaten. So there you go. Pretty cool. But I think they may have been paying homage to something that had that shape of head.
Absolutely, Kev. And it's very, very, you can tell by the sutures in the skull whether or not it's human.
And you can also tell, I think, by the level of knowledge they had.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
I don't know.
I think in general the Egyptians were trying to emulate the civilization or the entities or whatever they had stumbled across whenever they saw the pyramid sticking out of the desert sands, or when they stumbled across the pyramid and they're like, whoa.
Kind of fascinating, Scott, when you think about like the way Egyptians think of death. You know, that like almost the journey through the underworld and your heart getting weighed and stuff like that. And I tell you, dude, it's really interesting. I mean, heck of a culture, man.
It's very, very interesting. Whatever they were trying to emulate, because obviously, I think we can all agree here that the Egyptians did not build the pyramid.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. There's no doubt in my mind.
I think they built everyone after it because they were crap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they tried to emulate it, but they just couldn't. They couldn't do it. That they weren't able to achieve that level of engineering, that level of technology to recreate it. So they were just kind of like knockoffs, that weren't that good. But they were trying to emulate whatever it was that actually made the pyramid, and they were trying to emulate that civilization or those entities or whatever, and so that's why you see them wearing the hats. They wanted to pay homage to the elongated skulls that these things had, and so yeah, and that's another thing you see throughout different cultures too, the head binding, this need to elongate the skull for some reason, because seems like they're trying to emulate something. These beings that they've seen that have these elongated skulls and that they held up in this kind of like reverence, right? They were like, oh my God, we need to be like the gods or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. It came from somewhere. It's not like somebody just out of the blue said, hey man, I think I'm just gonna bind my skull up, and over time, I think people will think my brain is bigger and maybe call me a god. Yes, that is my solemn goal. I mean, I just...
no, I'm not buying that.
No, I just don't see it.
And even to this day, you see the whole thing with like the big cone-shaped hats, right? Even look at the Vatican, right?
Yeah.
And there's something to it. There's like this... I think there's this underlying thing where this practice originated from of wearing these huge cone-shaped hats.
Yeah.
Because of those freaky greyhounds coming down out of the sky, dude, using those
There's all
pyramids as
these
landing
pesky,
pads and all
all
that.
these pesky things that were there. You know, you had the. Just think about everything that's been seen by.
Now we've got 2 minutes, Joe, before we get cut off again. This is one crazy Freaky Friday. This is great, woo.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. Think about what's been seen by people, right? Just a myriad of things. Least of which is the Chitahuri. You know, I mean, that's.
Oh, boom. Oh, take a drink, folks. The Chitahuri and everything. Come on. Get out of here, Joe. You can't go there. We need to hold the Chitahuri for after the break. Come on, man.
Okay, we'll hold it for after the
Dang,
break.
dude. And people in the chat room, one was saying that the Anunnaki and the Nephilim, different names for the same thing. And then there was maybe somebody suggesting that the Anunnaki might be the offspring of the Nephilim. Any thoughts, Joe, since you are our resident expert that lived back then, after all?
It's a good question. Conehead's Wi-Fi. It could be. We don't know.
I think back in those times we did have more senses and abilities
Probably
than the
more.
5 we had. Maybe telepathic,
Right.
who knows? If we had telepathy, perhaps, you know, perhaps that would, that'd be quite interesting, you know? If we could maybe get back to using that kind of thing without a neural link. We'll be back after the break with the Chitahuri. Don't go anywhere, folks. Oh, damn, dude, it's like Christmas already, and it's only the 21st here in the UK. I've spoke to Popeye today. I've spoke about the Chitahuri. I've had screaming mandrakes. This is awesome stuff. And now the Nephilim. Bloody hell, man. Chitahuri the lot. You can't argue with that.
We're getting it all in. We're hitting all of it, man.
Dang.
Pterodactyls in Yellowstone.
You know it's a good show when you forgot about pterodactyls and dragons flying about in Saudi
And dragons
Arabia.
flying about. Yeah.
Oh, well, how the heck do I title this one, eh? You just can't. When you hear this, your brain will
toughie.
melt.
That's a toughie. Yeah. Yeah.
This is like...
But find some good clickbait title for it.
Oh, yeah. Everything you need to know about everything and then some. Pseudoscience 101.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Although they'll click in thinking it's pseudoscience and they'll get hit with the hard. You know, that whiplash that the truth gives you, Scott, when you come in there not expecting it. Damn, dude. Dinosaurs, cavemen living with dinosaurs, all the way to alien Egyptians.
Cavemen sleeping with
In
dinosaurs.
a minute, we're going to have the Chitahuri coming down to where Cecil Rhodes was kicking about and crap like that, and Credo Mutwa and David Icke. And oh, it's a roller coaster ride. It surely is. Yes, indeed. Come on, Joe. You love that little laugh.
It's
Ann said to title it Freaky Friday ADHD Hosts on Crack.
Oh, come on, dude. A bit late. God. Not that we are. People get
I'm
the wrong
just saying.
idea now. People get the wrong idea. That's going to totally skew how people look at the rest of the show. They'll be like, do you think maybe Ange is right, though? Do you think they could be on that?
I think so. I think there's deep down inside they all question.
That's it. She's made me paranoid now. I'm just muting up for the rest of the show. I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to put my
I
cone
have a-
head on.
I have a theory, Kev. I have a theory. Because there are so many gingers in Scotland, right?
Oh, Anne's got
And then you-
gingers all through her family, dude. I'm lucky. She's got gingers
See?
everywhere. Oh, she's looking
See?
at it, yeah.
So because of the high percentage of gingers in Scotland and then the obsession with cones and putting cones on the head.
Well, we've got a bit skewed. We've lost the story somewhere along the line. That's what's happened, isn't it?
I think there's a little bit of genetic memory going on there.
I think maybe I think
attracted to the cone.
the oral tradition that got handed down since we were Scottish, we decided it'd be fun to make like generations in the future absolute idiots and skew the story a little bit.
You know what I would really like to do, honest to God? I would like to get in a time machine.
Oh, dude, I was going to
Go
say time
back
machine.
to the time of the Pharaoh. And as he's standing there with his thing on his head, I would like appear next to him, woof, with my traffic cone on my head. And then I wonder if like history would change.
There'd be
and there would be like
hieroglyphs. Yeah, there'd be hieroglyphs.
hieroglyphs of a traffic cone on the head. What do you think?
Mummies would be getting like found with like cones on their head and the golden cone in the corner of the Valley of the Kings and all that.
Dude, yeah. How about you appear naked with a traffic cone strapped around your waist?
Dude, nobody needs to see that. Even
I'm just saying, but then the hieroglyphs would come.
Oh, dude, nobody needs to see that. Even I don't need to see that. That's a disgusting
Boy, there'd
thought.
be stories forever.
Here we go.
Forever.
Here we go. Here we
You'd
go.
be a legend.
Here we go. I'm already a legend in my own lunchbox.
LOL.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Cue the Wookiee. Indeed, yes, we're back. Hour number 2 already on today's Freaky Friday, and it's a good one. There's 2 more hours to go, and then we hand off to our good friend. We give the chalice of Woo over to Brent Thomas, and he will take you through the paranormal portal. Now, don't forget, myself, Joe, and Scott will also be back at the weekend, so don't worry. You can get your fix of the 3 amigos. Telling you more about that as the show progresses, but we left off on a very, very interesting point, Joe. The Chittahuri. Now, the Chittahuri, some people might only know them from, say, Marvel, things like that. But the Chittahuri, Joe, tell us about the Chittahuri. Now he's having to Google it. Look, he's having to giggle giggle the Chittahuri or Google the Chittahuri. You see now? Got that one well wrong, didn't I? Joe, you're muted up. You see, look, he's this multitasking thing. Well, the Chittahuri.
No. So here's the thing, right? I don't want to do it an injustice, but all there ever is, you see these days with the Chittahuri is the Marvel Comics stuff, and they just don't understand, the actual inspiration,
the origins of it,
and how important it was to people like Cecil Rhodes.
Well, I would say it was more important to the Zulus since it basically
Zulus for sure
deals with their cosmology, how they came to being. Wasn't it 2 brothers that came, 2 Chittahuri brothers that came here?
I believe so.
Pulled the moon with them. And folks, we're not just like making this up. I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head, but
yeah, that's the problem. I can't freaking remember it off the top
of my
head.
David Icke, he spoke to Credo Mutwa. Now, he was the one time the elder, the head of the Zulu nation, and he wears. I'll get a picture in a moment. I'll share it in the TFR chat.
I got it coming up right now. Here it is. I'm going to send you a link.
Yeah, he's basically the keeper of the knowledge. That's how these kind of African tribes work. Okay.
Let me give this. It says here, the Chittahuri in Avengers are an extraterrestrial race that aims to conquer Earth and subdue us all. But the Chittahuri in reality, according to some ancient Zulu traditions, would be extraterrestrial beings of reptilian aspect, and that would have had direct contact with humans in the past, and that they would have carried out their sinister plans, and that possibly, the writer and lecturer David Icke, known and questioned for disseminating his works the idea that there is a hidden force that controls humanity, interviewed in 1998 the African shaman Credo Mutwa, which translated ancient traditions of Zulu wisdom. Here it is worth noting that Credo Mutwa possesses the degree of Zulu shaman. It says here, the knowledge that the shaman Credo Mutwa gives in the conversation with David Icke comprises a legacy of wisdom coming from African ethnic groups with respect to the existence of ancient and diverse races, apparently of extraterrestrial origin, that arrived centuries ago to Earth. One of the races is known as the Chittahuri, being reptilioids or reptilians. The word Chittahuri means dictators, those who dictate the law. In other words, they tell us secretly what we have to do. Mutwa describes them as very tall, almost 3 meters tall, and with different social classes. The upper class royalty are described with several horns on their heads, with wings and a huge tail. On the other hand, the warrior class or lower class are described with large eyes, of vertical pupils, round face with horns, without wings, and without tail.
That sounds like any politician.
Yes.
Round face. They're always.
Yes, the following text is an excerpt from the testimonies about Chitahuri beings with David Icke received in the interview with Credo Mutwa. Human beings of past times could not speak. They did not have the gift of language. They only made sounds similar to those made by monkeys and baboons. People communicated through the mind. People communicated through the mind, or telepathy. Interesting, because I wonder, Kev, I wonder if before the Tower of Babel fell, if that's truly how we communicated, if we didn't use the spoken word, if that's when that portion of the brain was shut off. Because if we were truly telepathic, then we would be able to communicate without having that language barrier, right?
We would have been on the cranial information superhighway. I'm telling you, dude, that'd be.
So, I mean, just think about that for a second. That's pretty huge, right? So people communicated through the mind. A man could call his wife thinking about her, thinking about various characteristics of her body, such as her face or aroma or her hair. Men and women could also, move. And then it just.
Because parts of the interview, it's really hard to make out what Credo's saying, so I take it that's why that's been left out there.
I see, okay. It says a hunter went out into the bush and called the animals. The animals sent the specimen that was older and more tired. He knelt before the man so that he could kill him quickly and take the meat. At that time, there was no violence against animals. There was no violence against nature. The man asked for food from nature. He approached one of the trees and thought about.
Isn't that interesting? We were talking at the start of the show about like plants and trees communicating.
I swear, Kev, I think at one point in time we were all like connected.
Remember the movie Avatar? The place they go to there where everything's almost like in harmony, all connected. The beings are in harmony with the forest and everything. That's what I think it was like, Joe. I do think we had more than the 5 senses. I think we had that. I think we had the ability to do many things.
Yeah. It says here, until one day up in the sky, terrible objects appeared, similar to giant spheres that shone like the brightest gold. They were as big as mountains and more. They came from the sky making a tremendous noise, emanating fire. From those huge objects came others that looked like deep plates that threw fire and noise, and winds that raised a lot of dust and blinded the view. From those objects came the Chitahuri, which, according to Credo Mutwa, can be hybrid, humanoid, and intelligent creatures. The product of an ancient realization of extraterrestrial genetic engineering, which was based on ... And it says the Chitahuri, they told the humans, who were gathered using violence, that is lightning bolts of energy, that they were the great gods of heaven, and that they would give them the great gifts as long as they worshiped them and accepted as their creator gods. They also promised to return gods to humans if they accepted them, and the humans agreed. When the Chitahuri arrived, the humans were divided, both in spirit and language. Then the Chitahuri gave strange feelings to humans. The human beings began to feel insecure and began to build villages with strong wooden fences. They began to create tribes, and the borders between territories were created, which defended themselves to death, thus originating wars, which, to be quite honest with you, Kev, sound a lot like the Fallen Ones, which did exactly that.
This sounds like the same. It sounds like the same story being told.
Same story being told, but from this culture, right? It says the Chitahuri like to put humans against humans, and they enjoyed making us their slaves without being aware of it. Isn't that interesting, Scott?
It sounds like they utilized classic divide and conquer
Yeah.
on the human race,
And interestingly enough here, it says the Chitauri feed on the energy that human beings provide them. They are the cause of the disputes between groups, fear and terror. When a large mass of people are angry or fearful, the Chitauri feed on the energy. They feed on what we call the dark power. And then there's a video of Credo Mutwa being interviewed. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. What do you guys think?
Very, Joe. Come on,
I
man.
think it's stunningly similar to the biblical stories and other lore that's out there from that time,
This is why I get excited, Scott. People sometimes misinterpret this as me having a laugh at it and kind of, a bit light humor. No. This is because that's my coping mechanism. We're going back to a time when the kind of things that we talk about all the time, we're now getting it in the myths and the legends and like the creation kind of myth and stuff,
Yeah, like I said, this is just another example of another culture talking about the same stuff, and very interesting. A lot of the stuff that they talk about here, with the Chitauri, they're shapeshifters. They feed off of the energy, I wonder if the Chitauri are the same as the Anunnaki. Are we talking about the same?
I think you could be. And, think of this as well, guys. It's called the fall in the Bible and things like that. But if we keep it in the same context as we've been talking here with extraterrestrials and that slant for now, could it be even, it sounds sci-fi, but we often talk about, aliens and stuff. And I do think there is a spiritual component to some of that. I really do. And if there's demonic entities abducting things and doing bad things, then there's angelic things as well, right? But could it be that we're almost quarantined, Joe, the fall? We're quarantined out of the way. I don't know. It's just another way of interpreting it,
I kind of see it that way too, because if you think about it, the way that our solar system is set up, and I say that because it was certainly set up this way, you have barriers or regions within it that basically protect us or encase us. So you've got, not only do you have the heliosphere and the protection that affords, from a magnetic perspective too, you don't realize what these things do and what purposes they serve. And just like everything else, we often find that they're like a multi-purpose type of thing. But you got the heliosphere, then you've got the Kuiper belt, right? The Kuiper belt is this enormous asteroid field, or whatever you want to call it, past the planets. Then you've got the asteroid belt, and then you've got our magnetic field with the Van Allen belts. And all of that stuff, I think, is hugely important and almost acts, say, like a just a cloaking, some way to cloak us or keep us out of reach, out of touch, maybe protected, who knows.
Quarantined.
Quarantined, yes, very much so.
That's what I think.
I do too. Yeah. I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, and this is what's so striking with me, and really just shows you how bad the fall actually was, is if you go back and you read the oral record, the books of Adam and Eve, and you see how they were so tormented over falling and having to be in these flesh suits. It absolutely destroyed them. I mean, they were just distraught, absolutely distraught. They came from having ethereal bodies and possessing powers and abilities that transcend anything that we can understand, and then they get stuck in these things. Like, ew, what is this? Ugh. So they're jumping off mountains, trying to kill themselves and everything else. It's just crazy. And I think they killed themselves no less than a half a dozen times, and God's having to resurrect them each time. And it just goes to show you it's absolutely that, Kev. It's a fall. And, you know, say what you will about Alex Jones, but he nailed it with the term prison planet.
Oh, yeah.
That's what this is. Absolutely.
I mean, in a way, if you look at the world, you know, with the Orwellian glasses on, which you have to do, we've got the digital prison bars that are invisible all around us as well. We're almost in our own solitary, digital, invisible little cells, watch 24 hours a day. This is the perfect time and a perfect way to segue to something that I crowdsourced earlier on the live stream. I crowdsourced Freaky Friday. How cool is that? And one of the things that I wanted to bring to you, Joe, in particular, and myself and Scott, we can talk to anything, but you in particular, the question of prophecy playing out now. And before I let you tackle that, let me say what my initial thought was. I said that every couple of generations or every period of time, say every 100-year period since the Bible's been out there, I would imagine there can be a case to be made that for the people living in that time, they could see prophecy playing out, right? Now, does that mean that us seeing it playing out today means it truly is playing out, or is it just our interpretation of world events and fitting them into the prophecy? But with that said, there's one prophecy that you could definitely argue is just around the corner. If the mark of the beast is some kind of merger with technology, then that's one that really is coming close right now. But do you think it's all playing out for real in our time, Joe?
Well, let me just say I don't pay attention to prophecy in that manner. I just kind of look at it more as like
Does it not give you like almost like markers on the road where we are?
yeah, kind of, sort of, but at the same time, you have to look at things from a realistic perspective, right? So I could make the case to say that we're living in a time now that a lot of the things that were written about are now coming to pass that you couldn't make that justification for, like, for example, as was in the days of Noah, right? So we're talking about gene splicing. You couldn't do that at the turn of the 20th century. That's not what they were doing. When you're making chimeras and things like that, there's different things that make it unique to this time period. But interestingly enough, we're also at a time where you can actually see that there's a train wreck ahead. There's always train wrecks. If you look at the 20th century, it's nothing but a train wreck, right? Because you go from the Spanish-American War, just with wars, let alone famine and depression and everything else, but just wars, right? So you got Spanish-American War, the biggies, World War I, World War II, the Falklands, Grenada, Korea, Vietnam, all this, just a giant mess of wars. More bloodshed, more death than at any point in time in human history. I would say that's pretty bad, But you have to remember too that with prophecy, a day in prophecy is 1,000 years, or 1,000 years is a day, as far as what God's concerned. So what's a day to God is 1,000 years to man, is basically how it kind of plays out.
Who got that from God, though?
I forget how that was. It has to do with the way that prophecy's interpreted and the time, like when it's decoded. So when it's decoded, it's a consistent pattern all the way through. It's just one of those things. It's like Bible code and everything else. It's kind of how they interpret prophecy.
It's a different dimension, so.
Absolutely. Think about that,
Doesn't matter,
right? So, yeah, it's kind of like a fly lives for a week. So he probably thinks that if that fly's like, whoa, man, I wish I could live that long. But his week is like an eternity, right? It's like 80 years. Come day 4, he's like, I remember when I was just a little larva. That kind of thing. But it's all relative, right? It's all relative. So what's a day to God is 1,000 years to us. Holy crap, That's pretty interesting. So we're like the fly. It's all
Yeah.
relative.
I like it.
Nah, and Joe's right, but there are certain things that are happening that are unique to this particular time that kind of check certain boxes, right? When it comes to all of that stuff. Yeah, I definitely think like genetic manipulation is one of the things that definitely check the box. This upcoming merger with technology is another one of these things that check the box. Another thing that I find interesting is the fact that we're no longer disconnected in the fact that like the languages are no longer scattered. We've come full circle, and with the use of technology like Google and Google Translate and all of this stuff, the language barriers are pretty much non-existent anymore if you have a cell phone on you. So we're back to the Tower of Babel times, right? Everybody can
That's
communicate.
hugely important.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened, Kev, until now.
No,
With Google Translate,
yeah. But isn't this
that hasn't happened till now.
Wouldn't this be classed then, though, as the counterfeit system? Because it's the
very much so.
the artificial way of doing what we once done organically, naturally.
Exactly. It is the workaround. It's the beast system, the anti-system, if you will.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, and I like how you call it anti-system as opposed to anti-Christ system, because then you rule out a whole swathe of people, though. You do, because people who don't follow Christianity, they just roll their eyes and go away. So if you look at it as system, some people will call that the anti-Christ, whatever, anti-system. I like it.
It's just something different. It's all words.
But you know
it's
how
all...
much semantics matters these days, Joe. It can divide. It can
Well,
cause wars.
because people so easily tie their identities to movements and to ideologies.
Do you not
and
think,
everything.
though,
Yeah.
going back to Credo Mutwa and the interference of whatever it was, being dictators and the givers of laws, it's almost as if within our genetic code, we are designed to look for structured rules and authority and things like that.
I think so. I mean, this is something I've talked about before, right? Where it seems like our species, right? I mean, look, the human race, we're a tribal species. We group together in family units and tribal groups.
And now our tribal groups are the ones that they give us, Scott, right? The acronyms, the paid for movements, the things that people all jump on the bandwagon, right? As opposed to the tribal.
They use that. Yes, but they use that sort of tribal instinct that we have, right? In order to kind of hijack our hijack what we do, kind of hijack our actions, so that's where all of the sort of divide and conquer and the identity politics stuff comes into play, right?
Well, it's hugely important. That's the stuff that Le Bon figured out back in the 19th century. He says, holy crap. He says, this is amazing. People behave differently in a crowd than they would as an individual. And typically when they're in crowds, it doesn't mean that they're out in a crowd physically, but they're in a crowd. They are part of something. And that part of something alters their identity, which changes their behavior. So if you can control the what they're tying their identity to, then you can control the masses. And that's exactly what they're doing. It's amazing, but they've had this, basically they've had the playbook since the 1880s and have been using it with deadly efficiency and accuracy, if you think about it. I mean, it's pretty huge, Scotty.
Honestly, I think it even goes way farther back.
Oh, sure it does.
Because this kind of goes. I don't know if I should say occulted knowledge, but it's something that the elites have known for thousands of years, how to control the masses, how to divide and conquer, how to use that tribalism in a way to control people, right? like I said, it's because we're a tribal species. You know, we group together and we look to like a tribal elder or somebody to be the leader of our tribe. That's just how we're wired. That's just the way we are. And so of course people who lust for power, who want to control people, will exploit that. And that's what happened, you know, and they just did it in a very scientific, calculated manner. You know, once it got to the 1800s, like you said, Joe, you know, when they really did more deep sort of research into this, looking into into a more scientific method of doing it, then they were able to break it down into an actual blueprint of control. You know, so. But yeah, but this is just something that they've been doing for thousands of years, man. So where are we going next?
Let's see. I've got something in the grab bag here. Since we are actually we're kind of up against the break.
Well,
it looks like.
There's a quick one there. A quick headline though. Archaeologists discovered the table on which the Ark of the Covenant once sat. That's the
Is that right?
Jerusalem Post. It's not before its news or anything like that. Above top secret.
Okay.
So the table was uncovered within a temple dating back to the 12th century BCE, a time when the Israelites and Philistines were warring. Very, very interesting, that one. That was Jason again. Jason, I tell you, you are really hitting the woo, brother. Big time. And we're going to be going to the break in just a moment. That is Freaky Friday. We are halfway through, and that means 1 hour and a half to go until we hand off to Brent Thomas on the Paranormal Portal. Oh, hang on. What? Who hung up the hosts?
Nobody. I didn't.
Dang, it must have hung itself up. I don't know what happened there. Well, we're still here on YouTube anyway. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, it's funny, Kev. I actually this was on my nightstand, so I'm actually reading The Crowd by Gustave Le Bon because it's just so heavy. I mean, the things that he gets into and he talks about, it's when you think about the times that they lived in, and around this time in France, it was pretty. Yeah, let me say this: for all the crap that the French get, they're out there kicking ass and taking names. You know, I don't care what they're actually fighting for. At least they're fighting for something. But they're out there rioting right now, and it's great. They shut their whole country down because they're able to kind of come together and do it. Could you imagine, like, over in the UK or here in America, if we were able to actually do that crap? I mean, wow. That'd be pretty awesome.
That yellow vest stuff, and then
man,
this is they really they took it to them. I mean, they took it to the streets, man. I mean,
I just want a chitter hurry. That's it. Just one, like a bodyguard.
Sorry, I was just checking there because I think something went wrong with Skype. I don't know if we're going to the network there or not.
That's a shame.
Oh, it is, because there's a good crowd over at the chat room tonight
Yeah.
on TFR.
I know.
Well, so much from me saying that this update on Skype was good.
Yeah, right. Oh, you said that?
Yeah, because, well, remember it used to glitch out when we would add Scott or add somebody to the call? Yeah, so, I don't know. Dang, dude. So where next, gents, on our little whistle-stop tour of... We've still got loads of topics like Antarctica, remote viewing.
Oh, there you go. The Whistle Stop Tour of Woo.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a very nice title you just came up with there.
That is actually. I like that. I do like that.
Let's see. Oh, so funny enough, today the Boeing Starliner failed a key NASA mission as autonomous flight system malfunctions.
Ooh.
yes, yeah. You know, we were watching that launch this morning.
Were you?
And Yeah, and I was sitting there thinking, I looked over at my mom and I was like, I bet Elon is watching this launch.
Oh,
He's like,
you know it.
those primitive fools over at Boeing.
He didn't even.
Sure enough.
Scott, you know what? He didn't even bother watching it. He didn't even bother. He probably just stayed in bed. He's like, I know this ain't gonna take off, man. It ain't working.
They're all jockeying, right? Boeing and SpaceX, they're all fighting to see who NASA's going to contract to take astronauts up to space, right? And so this wasn't a very good showing for Boeing.
Okay, stand by, boys. We're about to go back. Very, very soon. Yes. Yes, indeed. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Get that Wookiee ready, Scott. Welcome back, everyone.
I
What
need to
timing?
take a suteware.
Oh, yes, indeed. That's a
So
very...
we are.
It's almost a French...
Oh, shit, hooray.
Goes down nice with snails, Scott.
Brian had an interesting time trying to pronounce that, but I'll take a crack at it. I need to take a chitahuri.
Oh, yes. Do you think...
Very
you think Mr. Everard dines with the Chitahuri and eats
You know
snails
he
in
does.
his castle?
No, he does. Of course he does. With a bit of pate.
Yeah, a bit of pate. we should play his intro on here one night, because I think he's got one of the best intros in the whole of alternative media. He puts on all those funny voices and just a cup of tea with the Queen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones, you need to work your second job to pay the bedroom tax.
That's the one. And listen, you might not know this, folks, because I think this is an under-spoken about fact, that Scott Lopez is Christopher Everard's co-host every Sunday on TFR. You can hear Scott hanging out with the man, the myth, the legend. And listen, I remember spending many a late night back when I was going through that initial awakening, listening to Chris Gio, Cherie, Gio. There would be Everard there. Sometimes it was EA Coetting. Do you remember that, dude? He would talk about all the kind of black magic and the dark stuff. Some marathon sessions. And some nights the show would go for like 4 or 5 hours. It was just like a Freaky Friday into the paranormal.
Like a Freaky Friday.
Yeah. And I tell you, folks, if you can still get a hold of those episodes anywhere out on the internet, they might be old now, but they're still relevant to this day. In
Very
fact,
much so.
I would actually go as far as to say, if you were to listen to them again, I bet we would go, no way. It's probably more relevant to this day. You'd probably pick up on things and go, wow, they really were talking about something but didn't realize it, you know? Good stuff. All good stuff.
Yeah.
So remote viewing, let me ask you, remote viewing, boys. What do you think?
What about it?
Yeah,
There's
definitely. Most definitely, right? Pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What about remote viewing into the past or future, Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Would,
I mean, it's essentially what like mystics would do.
yeah.
If you're trying to see the future or see something that happened in the past, I would say that's a form of remote viewing.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
What else do they call it? Scrying, I think it is too, right?
Yeah, it's a form of divination, isn't it? But you think of the modern day kind of remote viewing. You've got the Farsight Institute with Courtney Brown, and they usually you find they'll do big experiments looking at really significant events. But of course, the thing with remote viewing is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but it's like a double blind, isn't it? Like when you get the target, it's just a set of numbers, really, isn't it? That's all you really get, and you're told to go away and think about it, and you just tune into it, and away you go. I mean, I don't really understand the process. This is...
I don't either.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure like what the entire process is, but obviously there's something to it, or the government wouldn't have spent all of that money studying it and actually having remote viewing programs.
You think about it, Scott, right? What could be better than being able to go into an enemy facility? Oh, thank you, Guy. We got a super chat coming in. Yes, indeed. Your mum was right.
Mum told me not to come here. What?
Oh, what? Yes, indeed. Brian has got a little stutter at the end of that. Yeah, definitely like that one. But yeah, you imagine being able to go and view, literally take a walk through some facility underground of your enemy out there somewhere without even leaving your own base. You bet your bottom dollar they're going to investigate whether they can do that or not.
Isn't that kind of what Stranger Things? That's kind of what she did, right?
Big time. Big
Yeah.
time,
So it was the isolation chambers and kind of.
That's how they found the Upside Down, is they were originally using her to do remote viewing, and
Yep.
she opened up that portal to the other realm.
Exactly. Right. So I mean,
Where the Demogorgon lay.
I totally believe that stuff, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
and now being an expert in chronovision, I can tell you.
Nice.
That's right. We brought out the coronavisor tonight as well. Oh, this is crazy.
Let me ask you guys. A lot of talk has come my way. Few people that I really respect and I have conversations with about the kind of stuff we're talking about here.
About the coronavisor?
Project Looking Glass, another thing that's been out there spoken about for years.
And then like I said, the coronavisor, Kev.
The Chronovisor, yes, the Chronovisor, not to be mistaken with Andrew Bashaggio's Chronovisor. We have the Chronovisor in Scotland, designed by Alexander Graham Cohn.
That's right.
Yeah. Tesla used the Chronovisor, he spoke to the Martians on the Chronovisor.
I know that very much.
No,
so.
but all joking aside, Project Looking Glass, do you think there's something to that? All the Montauk stuff and everything?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I would also say, though, there's probably a whole heap of embellishment as well, but the core story, definitely true.
Yeah, I mean, maybe so. But
Everything grows bells and whistles because you get some people that'll dress it up a bit to get the clickbait factor,
But the core of it is absolutely true. Absolutely.
Sorry if you heard a noise there. That was, I don't know what it was. It was something in the background anyway.
It's just a shoe coming your way. It's all good.
No shoe coming yet. No shoe. Maybe a Chronovisor or two.
Let's see. What else do we have here? Since we're talking about that, though, seriously, there is that tic-tac-toe UFO that the Navy saw all those years ago on USS Nimitz. Well, the guy who filmed it, because ever since then, they came out, oh, yeah, that was just our own technology. Ha, 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 ha. So the Navy pilot who filmed the Tic Tac UFO speaks. It says it wasn't behaving by the normal laws of physics. So then the question is, do humans have the capability of engineering such a craft that can defy the laws of physics? What do you guys think?
I would think we would have to actually sit down and accept that our laws of physics are very limited. And if we don't know what we're playing about with, perhaps, or maybe it's kind of like the Egyptians building the pyramid. Maybe they get so far and you just can't replicate that because we don't have that thinking. And the Chelyabinsk thing, imagine that if that turned out to be true, that rocks from other planets or that were formed around other stars do have almost magical properties, right? They can levitate things and stuff. Maybe then Oumuamua, being an alien probe, isn't so far-fetched, right? So, I don't know, but the reason I was kind of making faces and things there, I thought you were going to hit me with a TTSA, dude. Oh, but don't go there. So yes, look at Joe now thinking, I'm going to go to the TTSA,
No, it says here, eventually, David Fravor, commanding officer of the Black Aces, made confirmation of one of the objects midair during a flight training exercise. An hour later, Underwood made his infrared recording on his second flight. That day, he recalls, David Fravor was like, hey, dude, Bolo. And, be on the lookout for just something weird. I can't remember the exact term he used. I didn't really think about that much at the time, but once I was able to acquire it on the radar and on the FLIR, that that's kind of where things, I wouldn't say went sideways, but things were just different. The footage appears to depict Fravor had identified as a 40-foot long white oblong, hence Tic Tac, hovering somewhere between 15,000 and 24,000 feet in midair, exhibiting no notable exhaust from conventional propulsion sources, even as it makes a surprising dart leftward in the video's final moments. Of the 3 UFO incidents captured by U.S. Navy airmen via infrared gun camera pods, Underwood's footage remains unique for its lack of crosstalk between the pilots, a fact that's led some speculation about its authenticity. But there wasn't anything on it that was protected. Underwood's retired former commanding officer, David Fravor, told Intelligencer, the missing audio, he says, just didn't make the copy. That was taken from the storage device. It says here, a former fighter pilot who served on the Nimitz in 2004, who spoke to Intelligencer on condition of anonymity, recalled an exhilarating group screening of the FLIR video inside the Nimitz's Carrier Vehicle Intelligence Center. Debriefs were usually pro forma in the CVIC, but this one in particular was so odd. There weren't really a lot of skeptics in that room. Years later, Fravor told ABC News that he didn't know what the Tic Tac was, but that, quote, it was really impressive, really fast. I would like to fly it. And in the CIVIC that day, the anonymous pilot told Intelligencer, we all had that. We all wanted to fly it. So interestingly enough, that is, what do you guys think? Do you think that could be our technology? Or are we looking at UFOs that we're saying is our technology to prevent that discovery, if you will? What do you think?
Various ways of looking at it, guys. What do you think, Scott?
The thing is that there's something about this whole thing that I feel there's something not right? Like, why?
You mean like an op? It seems like an op.
It seems like an op, big time. And why are they using this footage? Why are they pushing it on mainstream media? I mean, as you can see right there, Kev, look, I mean, that's CNN, right? And they're reporting this in a more serious manner,
almost
right?
like primetime news, Scott.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, it's not just CNN, it was Fox also. Tucker was running stories on it.
For me, this was almost like an unofficial release, Scott, because of the way that these are the same media outlets that we sometimes talk about being used by intelligence agencies out there. And we've also had the Smith-Mundt Act, you know, the propaganda thing being used on American people. That got kind of wound back a few years ago. So we know that they will put news out, they'll propagate information on behalf of the government for whatever reason. And you have to look at the characters it's coming from. And I know it's like pulling teeth. It makes people sick because I've talked about it that much. But just look at the TTSA board of directors, because that's where it's all been going through. And it reads like something out of a Tom Clancy novel. Why? That's all I'm saying. I don't know what it means.
Yeah, there's definitely something strange going on here. Now, whether the actual footage itself is legit or not, I don't know. I know that some people have pointed to some kind of weird irregularities as far as like the HUD is concerned that it's captured on, you know, the and wondering like maybe it doesn't really suggest that it's from a legit
one of the videos as well, Scott, that the TTSA put out, we were just talking about this with Ben Emlyn-Jones during the week. Steve Berra, a UK researcher, they've actually put out a video that he easily debunked. It was something that was over Macclesfield near Manchester, I believe, off the top of my head. But that had actually been debunked, and then the TTSA roll it out as if Well, here's something new, you know. So them themselves, it's a bit dodgy, and then they talked about having like alien material, meta materials, and stuff like that. But when you actually dug into it, wasn't really anything. I don't know, dude. There's, you know me. Maybe I'm just kind of too biased against them now. I don't know.
Nah, I think your sort of skepticism of the TTSA is well founded, right? I mean,
It's like they're
there's
just a front. They're a clearinghouse, you know. It's just a set up.
some, yeah, and
It
so
certainly
it's
seems
like
that way.
they're like a front for this phony disclosure, right? This this op that's going on. But I don't know. I mean, but that's not to discount that maybe, you know, these Navy pilots did see
Yeah.
something.
And I wouldn't discourage people from. Yeah, go on. You go, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still like on the fence, at least with the footage. You know, I'm just talking about the way it's been rolled out, you know, as far as being an op. But the footage itself, hey, it might be legit, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was some legit footage. You know, I mean, we've seen that there have been UFO video and stuff like that out there that truly can't be explained, that can't be debunked as a hoax or anything. So, you know, this is not to like poo-poo on UFO sightings or anything like that. I mean, hell, I've had my own UFO sightings, you know. So this is definitely a thing. It's just the sort of rollout of all of this and the way it's been portrayed lately that has seemed really, really fishy for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't discourage anyone from looking at the TTSA because you're going to find there's going to be a lot of truth in there. My main question is just why now? And why these particular characters? And why all the ambiguity from the Pentagon as well? Because the latest on the Black Vault with John Greenwald is that they're now denying that ATIP was investigating anything other than foreign technology, i.e., like Russian or Chinese or stuff like that. And it's been so back and forth. 1 minute they admit that Elizondo, the poster boy as I call him, he did work there. Next time they say, well, he didn't have that job. And then you find out he's actually still contracted to the government. But nobody's ever asked him that question, what do you do for the government? Again, which suggests that it's a very easy interview that these characters are given whenever they're rolled out. Funnily enough, always on the mainstream that do very scripted interviews, shall we say. You don't see any of them turning up on like Clyde Lewis or Coast to Coast, or dare I say even our little humble abode here, Scott, because they wouldn't know what questions are coming at them then.
Exactly. And like I said, it's basically like the whole UFO topic. Why are they all of a sudden just so open to it? And just,
I think we're coming to that point where we're going into that new sci-fi age, Scott. I mean, we're looking at linking people up via brain chip technology soon, right? And I'm not meaning to get into the positives or the negatives of that. But if we're getting to that level of technology and stuff like that, maybe it's time for them to start rolling out the more exotic stuff. Perhaps it could have come from alien information, communication. I don't know, dude. Or maybe it's time for them just to open the gates and welcome us into the galactic family. I wouldn't let us out of our own solar system, let alone out there into intergalactic kind of space trade and all that, Scott.
are you, so you're saying that maybe they might hold a press conference tomorrow and welcome everyone, or welcome our Chitahuri overlords, introduce them?
Well, you know, we had the airspace at the Pentagon closed down mysteriously. We had the fighter jets being scrambled over London. I'm still waiting for something in the sky over Rome. Maybe you'll get a couple of wee green men, and I pray a couple of Nordics come out onto the balcony, you know, at the Vatican, to give the royal wave. Maybe they'll get a pair of slippers like the big man, the big white dress, and a funny hat to wear. Hey, come on, man. The Pope
but-
said he would baptize them. Remember, this Pope said, if little green men were to come here, he would baptize them because they would
He
be
said
God's
because they're-
children as well.
Yeah, they're children of God too. So, yeah.
Damn,
Look, I
dude.
mean,
how many more topics can we get into?
I don't know, man. We're just hitting it all. If this is their way of rolling out like new technology, though, it's that kind of stupid. I think this is a stupid way of rolling out new technology. Why not just? I think the public would be pretty open to the fact that we got some really wild technology, and they wouldn't have to go through this whole roundabout way of UFOs and all of that to prepare the public. I think we're at a point in time right now where we can accept that science is doing some pretty crazy stuff. You know what I mean? And that we have the ability to create some pretty wild things. And so that's where I'm just like, why have they done this 180 on the UFO thing and taken it from?
Why is your country determined to create a space force at this exact same time, Scott?
Yeah, there we
That should
go.
never be ignored, and it could just simply be to justify money for the space force. I'm very open to that. You know, when whoever it is asking for so much of the budget, you know, people up there, they're used to having their money for their own kind of cause or budget or whatever. They're not wanting to give up some to a space force. And you know, maybe, you know, well, if we've got these things that our pilots really can't keep up with and stuff, we need to have some defense. That's what we need.
When it's very, very hard to sell the public on foreign wars, right? You've got to find a way to spend that money somewhere, or you know, get that funding in some way. And so, if you take the threat to outer space, well, then you can justify making a space force, right? We need to defend our space territory, or whatever you want to call it, because I mean there's so much pushback now. I mean, remember you had the members of the military holding up signs saying, I'm not going to be Al-Qaeda's Air Force. You know, it's not that easy to drag everyone into a foreign conflict anymore. People are sick of it. So you've got to find a threat somewhere, and you've got to find a way to justify spending that defense money on something. And well, there you go. Got the Space Force. So
Indeed. So
I think it's a big piece of the puzzle, though, if you think about it, because that, like you guys say, the war cards have been played out and everything else. So it's kind of like a brand new frontier. Just like,
I think it's one of Kev's cards, isn't it, Kev?
Yeah,
it's one of the cards.
I wasn't going to say it. I know you're probably sick of me saying that's my speculatory kind of scenario that they're going down the road of. And it takes us nicely to another pit stop on our crowdsources list. Apophis.
Very nice.
Will Apophis be the one to wipe us out? Is it the one that they may say we need to launch was it Armageddon, where they done the whole thing where they had to go and blow up the rock and all that?
I don't want to close my eyes.
Well, I would say, oh no, Joe, I'll get copyright strike for that, but there's no way the content matches picking that up as anything.
That's what I'm saying.
Sounded like a cat with balls stuck in a door or something.
Very very interesting, the Apophis thing. I actually think, that probably is the one that does pose the most threat. Apophis, and yes, and of course this ties us back to the whole Egypt thing. Why was it named Apophis? And named after the god of chaos, right?
Yeah, the god of Idaho potato, a god of spud. That's what it is. It's a cosmic potato, and it's coming our way. It's a giant russet, dude. It's a giant russet potato.
asteroid will pass so close to the Earth in
See,
2029,
no.
it will
Bullshit.
trigger an asteroid avalanche. Oof.
No. See, baloney, because I'm playing the flat Earth card here. Okay? That, my friends, is not space. That, my friends, is not a vacuum. That is a black tablecloth and a russet potato. You're being had. The Earth is flat. Hashtag flat Earth. Ha!
I don't know what to say, Joe.
Hey,
I
mate,
win.
Sorry, I thought you were waiting for an answer from me. You might be waiting a while there.
No, there's no answer. I'm the only answer. Shut up.
The answer to 1984 is Joe Joseph.
Yes.
Awesome.
Very good.
Are you inclined that way, Joe, that we're...
Actually, you know what, dude? I got to be honest with you. I think the numbers or the odds increase with every asteroid that goes by. You know what I mean? It's just one of those.
Dude.
It's not a matter of if. It's just a matter of when.
I'm
And it
not-
happens all the time, Kev. I mean, we get hit with more crap
I'm
that
not
people
worried.
have no idea.
I'm not
No,
worried about.
I-
I'm not worried about the ones they can see. I ain't
Right.
worried about
It's
the ones.
that they can't.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yep.
just
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Okay, so even if Apophis misses us, how many fragments are following that thing?
You don't know.
Because supposedly that's what Chelyabinsk was, I believe, was a fragment from a near Earth miss that occurred, and that there was a lot of space debris
we will
fragments.
be right back. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, I don't know if you guys had caught this, but I carried this, covered this with Ben the other day as well. But
Okay.
remember we had Oumuamua, the first interstellar visitor?
Yeah.
Well, now we've had our second known one. Again, tying in with my increased asteroid activity and the card being played right now. But what I like about this, guys, is it was discovered by an amateur. What have we always said about amateur astronomers? They're going to be the ones that we look to for any warnings when it comes to things like...
Nibiru.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And that's another one on our list we can touch when we come back after the break on TFR. I thought it was quite interesting, you know, we haven't detected any of these. And I get it, there's more telescopes looking at the sky at this time than any other time. This was somebody in Crimea with a homemade array, and they caught it, and now they've actually named it 21/Borisov. So yeah, we can touch on that when we come back after the break. Nibiru, wherever you want to go. I'm easy, Ozzy. And I'm also going to go and grab a drink, so I'll be 2 secs, okay?
Yes. So this Apophis thing, I think that probably is the one to look out for. I'm still not confident that that's going to be the one to hit. But like I said, I think we'll have to watch out for like the fragments and stuff that are probably.
But
traveling.
even so, right? The Earth is 70% water, right, or so. So chances are it's going to be a wave. You know.
Yeah. Ocean Strike is actually not that good. Because then you send up all of that water vapor into the atmosphere. It's a hell of a thing. But I'm with you, Joe. I think it's going to be something out of left field. We're going to be watching for Apophis and I don't know, underwater volcanoes.
It is absolutely. You know, it's going to be something crazy like that. Always is. But speaking of crazy, over at the Metro, interestingly enough, says here a tiny owl makes home in a family's indoor Christmas tree and then refuses to leave. That's right.
I'd keep him there. I'd let
You
him
should
live
see
in
that. Absolutely, dude. You should see this thing. It's the cutest little thing you've ever seen. Says here a family got the shock of their life after discovering a real-life owl had made a home in their indoor Christmas tree. Kate Newman from Atlanta was bemused when her 10-year-old daughter, India, told her one of the tree ornaments was scaring her and went to investigate. She was stunned to discover that the ornament was actually an eastern screech owl, and that the little bird was very, very happy and cozy and sheltered in this new home. Kate told CNN she comes very dramatically into the dining room and goes, "Mama, that ornament scared me." Then she bursted into tears. Kate is such an owl lover, and even bought some owl ornaments to decorate her tree. She initially mistook the feathered visitor for one of those until it suddenly turned its head and stared at her. Wow, that's crazy. Now, Kate families bought the tree just after Thanksgiving and suspect the owl had been living in it before it was brought indoors. The Newmans left the door and windows of their home open overnight in a bid to make the owl escape, but it stayed put, with the Newmans then forced to call a wildlife expert. She coaxed the owl out of the tree and put it into a crate with some chicken to help the bird regain its strength.
What the fuck?
The Newmans were told to leave the crate open in a darkened room with a means for the owl to get out of the house. They complied, with the nocturnal bird finally free. Kate is convinced the owl didn't fly too far and says she can still hear it hooting at night.
Wow.
It's so funny though, man. You look at this little owl and it's just unbelievable. And if it was the brain, she would have just kept it. She would have like fed it, put chicken in a cage every night. Come on, birdie, little birdie.
We have a new friend.
Yeah, that's my friend.
Is it the Bohemian Grove owl?
The Bohemian Grove owl? Yeah, that's right.
Johemian.
That's right. It's crazy, dude.
Here we go.
People in the chat are like, chicken? What the hell?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. 1 hour to go here on Freaky Friday. I'm Kev Baker. We got Joe Joseph and Scotty Lopez. And wow. And the Wookiee. That's not the Wookiee, that's somebody that the Wookiee took home with him with to ask no questions. The Wookiee.
That sounds like a creature that lives in one of those tiny caves that Max brought to the table.
Do you know what that sounds like? It sounds like remember Joe Schmiegel or Schmiegjoel? Remember the Photoshop we done of Joe as the Schmiegel? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Joe would probably prefer it if I didn't share that over at TFR and put it up on YouTube, but I don't roll like that. So I'll be posting that over at TFR in just a moment.
Yeah,
and,
gee whiz, thank you so much. I love it.
Hey, come on, dude. You know,
It was one of your better
listen,
photoshops, I must say.
nothing says I love you like a Joe Schmiegel. I'm just saying. I truly am just saying. I think that looks absolutely fantastic. And doesn't
You
that
gotta play.
doesn't that
You
sound doesn't that sound go with it? See what I'm saying? I think that's just perfect.
It kind of does, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of goes with it.
I'll go with that.
It's definitely one of my better ones, though. Yeah, I'm posting that over at TFR right now. That's a cracker. Now you've made me want to do an even better one of you. And he's muted up, talking away to himself. I don't know if he's talking to himself because he might be talking to the brain.
I was
It's hard
indeed.
to work out here. I'm easily confused, Joe. So where are we going now? Where now? Nibiru. That was next on our whistle stop of Woo, right? Let me just post this picture before we get to Nibiru Woo. And I was pulling up a story during the break concerning the second interstellar object or visitor that we've had. That was this 21 Borisov. And an amateur astronomer found it and it got us talking about Nibiru. So what do you think, guys? Nibiru yes, Nibiru no. Is it out there? Is it incoming? What do you think?
Okay. I think it's out there, but I don't think people are picking it up on their cell phone.
I'd agree with that. Now, somebody was saying
so-
to me today that there was somebody, a researcher out there, I've not checked it out, but they say that there's some pulses or some energy that may or may not be getting picked up right now. Like I say, I don't want to go into it because I really don't know too much about it. I've not really checked it out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there is something that travels through our solar system in a cycle that has wreaked havoc. You know, I think there are certain, you know, legends and stuff that have talked about this, and stories and stuff like that from different cultures that have at least talked about something traveling by causing some kind of cataclysmic event. So I definitely think it's there. Whether, you know, when's the next time it's going to be passing through, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of cold case evidence, I would say, Scott, circumstantial evidence that you could definitely say, listen, at some point, some periods way back in the day, there was ancient civilizations talking about perhaps these kind of things. I'm open to it. I'm like you though, dude. I don't think people catching second suns on their special Nibiru filter on the iPhone. That doesn't impress me.
No.
I think, like this asteroid I was talking about, the one that the boy in Crimea picked up on his own telescope, I would look to the amateur astronomers to sound the alarm, so to speak. If anything is
Absolutely, because something that big is not going to go unnoticed, at least as far as I'm concerned. And even some of the more experienced amateur astronomers have some pretty impressive equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Able to detect something like Nibiru, because they say it's cold, and because it's cold, you can't hardly see it, so you have to be looking in the infrared. Well, people have that now. You know, it's actually more common now than ever with, you know, computers interfacing with the telescope and everything else. It's able to do so much more, and, you know, being able to plot the or using computer assisted, you know, pointing the damn thing. You're not there all night long trying to find it. I mean, there's just so many tools now at the amateur astronomer's disposal that, I'm sorry, I just don't see how much can get through, especially something that big, without being noticed.
Still open to something being out there though, Joe?
I mean, yeah, I to be honest, yeah, I am.
I think the three of us are kind of in the same camp. We don't rule it out, but we just don't see any evidence that it satisfies our kind of.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is something in this weird oblong orbit, you know, that passes through. But right now, I don't think we're at a time where it's heading in, or we would see it, you know. And we'll see what's the orbit, or how many? What's the time frame? What is it, like every, was it 3,500 years or something like that it's supposed to?
Something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I think there is something to it, but I think it is so far off and it's so far away. We're just not seeing it right now.
Sorry, here's another good one we could follow on from there. Magnetic North on the Wonder. I know you had caught this on your travels this week, Joe. I had briefly spoken about it, but I'd love to get your two guys' take on it, because from memory, I think they're saying it takes 11,000 years to complete, and it's speeding up now where it's kilometers a year. Do you know what I mean? It's doing its thing. So what do you think?
Right on.
Well, I know you dropped a.
The flip is imminent.
Well, you dropped the link in the chat, so I was thinking maybe you had the story there. That you know, wrong for me to assume such a thing, Joe.
No,
obviously.
I have it. Hold on, let's see here. It says, our planet is restless, and its poles are wandering. Of course, the geographic North Pole is in the same place it always was, but its magnetic counterpart, indicated by the north on any compass, is roaming towards Siberia. Let's see, and at a record-breaking speed that scientists don't fully comprehend. It's worth stating that while the pace is remarkable, the movement itself is not. The magnetic north is never truly stationary, owing to fluctuations in the flow of molten iron, within the core of our planet. Believe it or not, I have a great article, Kev and Scott, after this, talking about how there perhaps is iron snow at the core of our planet. Iron snow. I mean, it just never ends with some of these scientists and trying to justify their existence. Why, by cracky, I've discovered iron snow at the center of the core.
Otherwise known as
Don't
molten
let the
metal.
facts get in the way of a good story.
Otherwise known as molten metal.
Yes, molten metal. Now, since its formal discovery in 1831, the North Magnetic Pole has traveled around 1,400 miles. The NOAA National Center of Environmental Information explains on its website, this wandering's been generally quite slow, allowing scientists to keep track of its position fairly easily. But that slow wander has quickened of late. In recent decades, the magnetic North Pole accelerated to an average speed of 34 miles per year. The most recent data suggests its move towards Russia may have slowed down to about 25 miles annually, but even so, compared to theoretical measurements going back hundreds of years, this phenomenon is a phenomenon scientists have never witnessed before. They say the movement since the 1990s is much faster at any time for at least 4 centuries. This according to Syrian Began from the British Geological Survey. We really don't know much about the changes in the core that's driving it, but while researchers fully can't explain the core fluctuations affecting the North Pole's extreme restlessness, they can map Earth's magnetic field and calculate its rate of change over time, which helps us to predict
Bullshit.
how it may be distributed in the future. Yes, the brain is calling bullshit on that.
The bullshit's coming. That's what it means.
Yes, it is. The system produces a model, what's called the World Magnetic Model, or WIM. A representation of fields that power everything from navigational tools like GPS to mapping services and consumer compass maps, not to mention systems used by NASA, the FAA, and the military, among other institutions. Now, despite its importance, the WMM's power of foresight, like the magnetic North Pole itself, are not set in stone. And the readings need to be updated every 5 years to keep the model accurate. Provided the suitable, that's why, guys, they have to go now, I think it's almost annually now, to change the numbers on the runways,
Yes.
because their numbers are actually changing faster than they're used to. It used to be a 5-year cycle, now it's not. Now it's more like a 1 or 2 year cycle. So isn't that interesting?
Wow. Yeah, there's definitely something going on. Is this the beginning of an actual flip?
Who the hell knows? I mean, I don't think anybody alive has actually seen one. And outside of simulating one, I mean, how do you even simulate one?
The real thing, I mean, in the past, I don't think it would have maybe been too much of an issue, apart from probably really dramatic aurora borealis, because think of it, there wasn't like GPS back then that we know of, or satellites, but you think of it happening in our time with our technology and the way that could affect us. You know, we could get extra cosmic rays or something coming through. I don't know if it weakens like parts of our magnetosphere as this is all going on. I've even heard theories about how when at one point during the flip, there's multiple poles, Scott. You get multiple poles, like you do in the sun sometimes when it's doing its flip, you know?
Yeah, because then the magnetic field becomes so chaotic,
Yes,
you know?
It's spaghetti junction.
Splitting. Yeah. And, but I definitely think what we're witnessing right now, like this drift and this issue that we're having with our magnetic poles, I definitely think this is contributing to a lot of this these animal die-offs, where you have like just these birds falling out of the sky, or
good point, bro.
These bees that are, you know, colony collapse and stuff like that. I think a lot of the animals that rely on magnetic navigation are being affected by this, because you see how far it's drifted, how far the pole is drifted, that's obviously going to have an effect on migrating animals. So, it definitely will have some kind of an effect. They've also witnessed, or they've also sort of noticed that there have been these patterns of, I guess you could call them failed pole flips, where it has tried to flip, but it ended up kind of like bouncing back and then
see,
reestablished.
something like that, Scott. Now, something like that would suggest to me an object maybe coming in periodically and pulling maybe something. I'm not saying it does, but just, something to interrupt.
Yeah, think of that, right? Like, so maybe this goes back to the Nibiru thing, right?
That's what, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So if we had this object that flew by Earth, that was about the size of, it was another planet, right? And you had that gravitational and magnetic pull, I'm sure it would affect the poles and it would do something weird. So that's a very interesting way to look at it as well. But you got to wonder,
we talk about the electrical universe a lot, right? And
mm-hmm.
if there is an attraction, repulsion kind of like that does fit, something coming in with a magnetic kind of field of its own, interacting with ours. I don't know, dude. I don't know. Maybe even an asteroid of a certain size could do that, Scott. Maybe it's made of nickel or copper. You could be made of anything to create that magnetic field. You just don't know, right?
What if it was a mini black hole?
Dude, there's that little... What if there's stuff out there like pink holes? But that sounds a bit rude, a pink... There's plenty of those out there. I know 7.5 billion of them. Brown ones, eye holes, ear holes. I get you, folks. I get you. You know what I'm talking about, though, Scott. Come on.
Yeah.
Dang, dude, dang. I'm just going to hide with my cone for a wee moment. I'll just put the cone on the head for that one. I really did walk into that one, didn't I? I deserve to be the cone head.
But basically what you're suggesting is like super dense small objects.
Yeah.
That
Scott, there could be metals out there that we don't even know about. You know what I mean? Who knows what properties some of these things might have or might not have? I don't know.
Yeah. But, there's definitely something going on with the magnetic field right now. And I think it's contributing to a lot of this weird stuff that we're seeing happening with
Matthew's talking about CERN. I honestly don't think so. I honestly don't. Because here's why I don't think it's the same. And people can disagree with me if they like, that's okay. But when it comes to the Earth, we're talking about a dynamo, almost magnetic system. That kind of magnetic field that's produced there, which, as we all know, comes out the poles, comes round and comes back in the bottom, compared to an electromagnet made out of superconductive metals, shielded in niobium and some of the most insulatory kind of metals that you can imagine to man, and all of the force goes in the way. And anything that may come out the other side, well, you've got 300 feet of grounding because you're underground. And all I would say is, unless the whole of the population of Geneva and the surrounding area is paid off, I haven't heard of anyone or seen any videos of like magnets going mad, or compasses, going mad, or forks hitting people in the eye when they're going to have their dinner. Because if you're talking about something like that, it's an entirely different magnetic field, Scott, that's generated. And not only that, it's directed right in the way so that you can steer particles around in a circle next to the speed of light, as opposed to them just smashing off the wall. You know, that's some power of concentrated thing, yeah?
You have to think of the magnetic field that CERN generates as like a laser, right? a laser is all of the light photons focused into one beam that goes one direction and doesn't spread out, right? Unlike if you just flip on a light bulb and it lights up the entire room, a laser is focused in one particular area. CERN, that's what they're doing. They're focusing the magnetic field in one particular area, and they're containing it. So it's not like the magnetic field is spreading out around CERN or anything like that. It's only being used to accelerate the particles within that contained area.
Yes. What do you say to it, Joe?
I don't know. I really don't know how it affects. I don't think we know how it affects everything. I really don't. And what the
Now,
consequences are of it. But I will say that.
Yeah, I will say though that the actual smashing of the particles together and what is created from that's a different story.
Yeah, sure. But I'm saying I just don't know that. I don't know what the byproduct is of all that experimentation.
You see, look at there's a cross section there. You see the bigger outer casing, and then you've got think of it as the barrel of the circular gun, where all of these bajillions of protons are just flying, doing their thing, right? And you can see there. Now, admittedly, this is one picture, but I think it does show what I'm talking about. And of course, it could very possibly be that it escapes the casing. I'm not convinced of that. And that's not to say they can't flip the switch and maybe put it another way. Joe, I don't know. I mean, could have potential for that. But this superconducting electromagnetic kind of shielding that they've got there, I mean, that's a different magnetic field than the one being generated at the core of our planet.
Right, of course.
Yeah, that's my point. Whether it affects it or not, I don't know. I would have expected to have seen a hell of a lot more disruption, planes and stuff, and GPS satellites, and is it the Ghost satellites, those ones that monitor the magnetic field? Surely,
the GOES, GOES, GOES.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe.
No, you're right. So in that sense, like when they turn it on, you see what it does to the magnetic field, right? You see the hair go woo, the magnetic hair go crazy on the Earth, but technology-wise, you're right. You don't really see GPS disruption. You don't see any sort of navigational problems or anything else associated,
maybe
satellite goes or otherwise. So is it? It's kind of hard to tell.
It'd be
how
hard.
it.
And again, you could maybe say, with it being underground, Joe, could it affect the lines of force coming from the center of the Earth? Yeah, that's it. Again, holding my hands up here. Be the hardest words, but they'll trigger people. I don't know. I just don't know. I really don't. Could
but
be.
Boy, is it interesting.
Yeah. I'm like Scott, though. I find it far more interesting when you're smashing these things together and creating cosmic rays, not even by smashing them, just by having them going in a circular motion. Something to do with that effect. It produces cosmic rays, and that's why they've got something there called the cloud experiment. And literally, they've got a cloud chamber where they bombard it with light that's produced with these particles going round, counter rotating particles. They produce this.
Because why not?
Yeah, dude, it's amazing when you think about it. and you see the size of it. I mean, damn, man.
Bro, it's unbelievable.
And like I said, I'm more concerned about what is being created by these particles smashing into each other than the magnetic field that they're generating. We've talked about what would happen if a strangelet was to escape, or get created and start boring itself down into the core of the Earth.
And I remember it was me and Patch had been talking about them, and remember we had some like Nobel laureate physicist coming out and talking about the potential for strangelets being produced. I mean, even when myself and Patch were talking about it, I could see it was something there, but to have that confirmation coming from somebody like that, dang, dude. Oh, hello. And then think what's coming soon. The 100-kilometer circumference. Or what, the 100-kilometer ring, call it. And they're going to be colliding positrons and electrons. Dude, this is crazy time.
I'm sure nothing could go wrong there. And then China.
What could possibly go wrong with messing with antimatter, right?
Maybe the titles of books, events that got us into world wars, events that people can't remember quite the way they used to. I don't know, maybe just stuff like that, Joe. Who knows?
And then isn't China building a particle accelerator that's 7 times larger than CERN?
Yeah, they're going for the same size, which really makes me wonder why both going for that 100. Have they done?
Yeah,
is this almost
it seems
like
kind of interesting that on separate sides of the world, they're building similar size.
It's almost like they found something that's really pushing them to go to this higher energy level. Thank you, Renzo, and we're almost on the break. 1 segment to go. And don't forget, folks.
Great science talk, smiley face.
Yeah, and we've got Brent Thomas Paranormal Portal coming up on the network right after this. And Matthew, before we go to the break, the Deep Underground Neutrino Experiment, or DUNE, will study some seriously ghostly subatomic particles. The subterranean experiment will entail shooting a powerful beam of neutrinos through the Earth. Oh, nothing can go wrong there either then, right?
Nothing like
Good shout, Matthew. Good shout. I've heard of that one. Yeah, good shout.
Who just wakes up in the morning and goes, I want to fire some neutrinos through the planet.
Well, there is something new coming at CERN that I'm going to be covering soon. Watch this space. I told you I'd go back when it's new. We're going back to CERN real soon, folks. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Ah, yes, indeed. I want to go there right now, but I can't. I don't have enough info yet, Scott. I shall share with you. I will share with you after the show, my brother. Share with you after the show. Yes.
Leave the people hungering for more, Kev.
Oh, come on. Would I do something like that? Would I leave hooks, purposeful hooks in the show for people to keep coming back? I want to give a shout out to everyone out there in Chatland on YouTube tonight. Really appreciate your support, not only for the show, but for TFR Live as well. Remember to check out the website, share it on social media. Myself and the guys will be back over the weekend, hopefully as well, if the guys are free. You know me, I'm here. I'm addicted. I've got that bug. You know it. I love the streaming now. Yeah, so we'll have a pretty wild and wicked weekend, I would imagine. We always do. Thank you, Guy.
I love beams of power.
You know, Brass Neck, I feel like that about 5 times a day right now, sticking my head between my knees and just kissing my ass goodbye. You know, definitely, dude. I also like to look at the good stuff that comes from CERN, Scott. Medical advancements, you know, nuclear...
It's another one of those things. You got to look at both sides of it.
And think of how, although I say at times we're so limited with our brain power compared to what maybe the whole picture of science is, you really have to take your hat off to the ingenuity, to have the idea to even do these types of things, you know, to be able to take these building blocks of everything and literally blast them apart to see what the quantum level of stuff is. Again, I don't know.
Just shows that, you know,
we can't crack famine, but we can build a hell of a big machine.
We could achieve some pretty crazy stuff if we really put our mind to it, right? You know, and it just shows. It's just an example of like human ingenuity.
Do you reckon there's a part of? I reckon there's an office at CERN where they do like woo type experiments, like right now that after 5 p.m., business hours is done. They get to kind of take over and they go in and they fire it up and they've got a big chair, like in the recent 12 Monkeys series, and they just sit in the beam and they just blast into tachyons and gone, boys, gone.
There was a. I don't know if you heard of this, but back in the day, there was a Russian, I believe, a Russian scientist or something at a Russian particle accelerator who actually stuck his hand in front of the beam.
Whoa.
You'll have to look it up.
Really?
Like-
Dude, what happened? Can you remember? That can't be good for your health.
Just like a Russian scientist.
So it's
Answer or
it's
something
actually
like
a story.
Oh, he put his head in it.
Wow,
Here we go. The man, Anatoly Bergorsky, the man who put his head in a particle accelerator and survived. Okay, we'll come back with this. We're just about to go back to the network.
Now that's some woo.
That is some woo and a half. Oh, dude, imagine he came back and said, I just seen dinosaurs. Oh. I've seen really old people. Not dead people, but really old people. Here we go. Oh, yes, indeed. It really does pain me this week to tell you that this is the final segment of Freaky Friday. Freaky Friday is always good. It's the favourite day of the week for me when it comes to broadcasting. And then some weeks they just take on a mind and a life of its own. It's like the three of us throw out thought forms and they take shape and it morphs into the best Wookiee you could ever imagine. And check this out for a cracking story to kick off our final segment before we hand over the Chalice of Woo. Yes, in the ceremonial passing of the goblets.
Did you just call it the Chalice of Woo?
You like that? Yeah, you like that, dude? Like it?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, well, it's like, you see, like Black Rod when he goes to Parliament and does the thing on the door. We should start, like, we've got one of those things. We'll just bang the table 3 times
Just
and
bang
pass
the
it to
table
Brent.
3 times. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Our chalice of woo overfloweth.
Oh, it certainly does. We're in an abundance of woo tonight. But it says here, a particle accelerator is a machine that propels particles at nearly light speed. Invented in the 1930s. Wrap your head around that one, folks, eh? Pre-World War II, we were playing about with these things. It's used to study all things particle physics and has led to discoveries of groundbreaking new particles like the Higgs boson. But enough about groundbreaking discoveries. What if you stuck your head in one? Perhaps the better question is, why would you stick your head in one? In the name of science, obviously. Luckily, there are answers to both. Just ask Anatoly Bergorsky, the guy who actually did it, at the command of his KGB handler, I would imagine. In the 1970s, Russian scientist Anatoly Bergorsky was a researcher at the Institute of High Energy Physics, working with Soviet particle accelerator known as the synchrotron U-70. And on July 13th, 1978, dang, I was just coming up 2 years old, he popped his head into a synchrotron to check on a malfunctioning piece of equipment when all of a sudden, zap, a safety mechanism went kaput, and at exactly the wrong moment, shooting a proton beam right through his head. Now, although he felt no pain, Vygotsky reportedly saw a flash brighter than 1,000 suns. The beam entered through the back of his head and exited through his nose. So did the back of his head, I think, by the looks of it. Soon after, the left side of his face swelled up like a balloon, and he was rushed to hospital. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but dang, this is just... Imagine sticking your head in there.
Dude, that's mad.
To be treated, of course, but also to be studied, as nothing like this had ever happened before. People believed he'd be dead within a few days at the most. Now, it makes sense that doctors expected the worst. The kind of energy that Vygotsky's skull absorbed from the proton beam's ionizing radiation is measured in grey. Now, as Gizmodo explains, the beam that struck Vygotsky measured 2,000 gray when it entered his skull and about 3,000 gray when it exited. That's interesting, isn't it? So,
It picked up more gray. It picked up more gray matter as it traveled through.
literally.
I think that's the.
So
I think that's
his brain literally supercharged it.
I don't know. This is
All I know is it goes on. This is staggering. So absorbing more than 5 grays at any time generally means death within 14 days. So think about that. Wow.
On you go, dude. You can take a crack of it if you want. Here you go. I'll
Well,
send
it
it to you.
goes on. It says,
I'll
I don't
send
have
you.
it. Yeah,
There
I
you
was
go. I'll
gonna say
send you,
something.
dude. It lets me take a drink of my tea, you know, and
I have a drink of your tea.
yes. Thank you. Thank you. So kind of you.
All right. I'm a survivor. Okay, anyway, here it goes. Bergorsky survived longer than just a few days. In fact, in 2018, he was alive and well at 75 years old. The accelerator incident didn't leave him entirely unscathed, however. He's human after all. The beam burned a path through his skull and brain tissue, and for the next couple of days after the event, the spots on his head where the beam entered and exited.
Oh, thank you, Robin. I like it. I
Thank
like
you, Robin.
it.
Drinketh from the fury chalice of woo.
Yes, we will
It's
drink
very,
it.
very nice. Yes, we sure shall. Says Bergoski lost his hearing in his left ear and now experiences constant tinnitus. The left side of Berkowski's face gradually became paralyzed, making it oddly frozen in time. Who the hell needs Botox? He suffered at least 6 tonic-clonic, aka grand mal seizures, and also experiences absence seizures. For someone who's considered a goner almost immediately after his incident or accident, things could be much worse. Bergowski was even able to complete his doctorate following the incident. So it's no superhero origin story, but it's impressive nonetheless.
He turned into a spider 6 months later.
Now that would have been really impressive.
Oh, that's
But
pretty
damn,
cool,
dude. Yeah, burned a hole right through his head.
Oh man, I'm keeping a load of this website, that's for sure, and that came from
Yeah.
Curiosity.com.
Oh, very,
it didn't kill
very,
the cat,
very
but it
nice.
almost got the Russian the Russian scientist, right?
Yeah, very nice.
Well, there's the moral of that story: never go sticking your head in a particle accelerator.
Yeah, that's right.
Literally a no-brainer.
Oh.
Ding, ding, ding.
I just think at Popeye's bandwidth, he might just be getting that right now.
The Popeye, he'll be coming back soon, boys. He's taking the battleship out.
He actually just messaged me a little while ago.
Oh no! What's going on? It's firing up, Scott. We're firing her up.
I think he's informing me of the battleship being.
Imminently seaworthy.
Yeah, we're taking her out of mothballs, boy.
For anyone who
Taking her
might
out-
not know Popeye, we have our very own Popeye emoji on YouTube. Yes, there it is in the chat room there. He is a character, not just from a cartoon, let me assure you. The Florida Man version of Popeye is a far more refined character indeed.
Complete with white van.
And talking to Florida Man, on Monday night, I will be doing a show with Ryan Gable. I hope you're about, Scotty, and if you're about too, Joe. We're doing Florida Man. We're keeping it nice and light going into Christmas week, the holidays. So we're going to be taking a look at the top Florida Man stories for 2019. Talking of the top stories for 2019, Joe, didn't you say you had a list of something kicking around? I don't know if it fits or... You've muted it up, muted and booted. Suited and booted. Indeed.
10 stories of 2019. Says here, black hole picture, measles outbreak, climate protests, and more. The top 10 science stories of 2019.
Did we not do this before?
I don't think so.
It was the top science stories of the decade that we.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very good. So, of 2019, number 1, portrait of a black hole. After more than a decade of work, results from the Event Horizon Telescope stunned the world this year with the first direct image of a black hole's event horizon, the region beyond which not even light can escape. Bum, bum, bum. 2. Measles resurgence. You dastardly non-vaxxers. In 2019, measles sickened more people in the United States than in any year since 1992. 2 outbreaks in New York accounted for more than 75% of the cases. And do you know why, Kev? Do you know why?
Pesky anti-vaxxers.
Stupid anti-vaxxers. That's right.
Sarcasm, folks. Sarcasm.
Stupid.
Think about it. Climate activism this year. Summer temperatures broke hundreds of all-time records.
That's right. You want to know why? Do you know why that?
Because Greta was on a world tour.
No, because of anti-vaxxers.
Probably. That and the Chittahoorie.
And the Chittahoorie.
Yeah. Bet the Chittahoorie didn't get their vaccines either.
I bet you not.
Unprecedented melting to Greenland and helping to fuel wildfires that raged across the Arctic. I think saying they raged across the Arctic might be an exaggeration. But a stark report. There was fires in Sweden. I remember reporting on that because that was quite weird. They had to get an Italian, one of these ones that dumps the water. Because funnily enough, Sweden don't have things for forest fires. Go figure. Being in the Arctic Circle. So yeah, but a stark report warned of a bleak future on Earth's oceans and frozen regions. But polar bears are thriving, penguins are having identity issues, and climate scientists say that
sleeping with dogs.
And climate scientists say that's not 2019's only takeaway. This year also saw monkey, pig, Crimea, and record-breaking waves of climate activism.
Now,
Greta Thunberg.
of course, we've also got Kev. 2019 is the year of the identification of the dangers of vaping. That's right. By God, e-cigarettes have enjoyed a reputation of being quite harmless, at least among the public. But that began to change in 2019 when the first reported lung injuries and deaths linked to vaping provided a stark corrective. Then, of course, we have Denisovian discoveries. Discovery reported in 2019 brought an ancient group of hominids called Denisovans into focus, but left plenty of room for interpretation. As fossils accumulate, investigators will grasp how Denisovan anatomy influenced the skeletal makeup of Denisovan's occasional mating partners, including Homo sapiens.
That's quite a cool one. Quite a cool one, the Denisovians. But I think people think that's a really cool name, Denisovian. Where did they get that from? And the story's so cool, it's unbelievable. It was literally a monk called Dennis. He was the dude. He was the dude that uncovered the first. I'm not even joking. It was.
Can you just imagine like this guy? Hi, I'm Dennis.
No, it was a Russian monk, dude. It was the Russians. Russian monk.
I got you.
Yeah. And he was in a cave. He found them, and yeah, funnily enough, Dennis Ovians was what we were left with. But next story, interesting. We mentioned it earlier. CRISPR in clinical trials. This year, researchers in the US began testing the gene editor CRISPR-Cas9. But at the same time, eradicate some diseases, good and bad, in people. A crucial first step in determining whether the technology can fulfill its medical promise. I really hope it can, safely. It may take generations to find out, though, Joe. At that point, you can't put that genie back in the bottom. Quantum and let me kind of add some comedy to this. You do know that there's a number of scientists want this term banned because.
Now, why is that?
Because it includes the word for a really, really, really like supreme thing in the middle. And obviously that's a racist term. I'm not making this up. There's actually been a letter by a number of scientists.
Are you saying that the woke crowd got a hold of this?
Yeah, they're going into like colonization of like viruses and bacteria. Can't call it that anymore. They're wanting to get rid of that as well because obviously colonization has connotations of a a far more evil time that we should all bow at the altar of Greta to, and we should all carry guilt for and things. I'm not making up, okay?
So we shouldn't say colonizing Mars or anything
No,
like that.
no. Even though it's a scientific meaning, Scott, that we're obviously assigning to it there. No, that a number of scientists have done this, okay? In universities the way they are today, I don't know. It might take hold. I don't know. But in October, researchers from Google, hey, go Google, claimed to have achieved a milestone known as quantum supremacy. But IBM researchers countered that go Google hadn't done anything special. The clash highlights the intense commercial interest of quantum computing as companies jostles for position at the forefront of the field. Number 8, Joe.
Asshat.
Number biodiversity. Some big numbers from Nature made the news in 2019. Was it bajillion? There were enough of a shock to people to get people talking about the dwindling diversity of plants, animals, and other life on Earth, and what to do about it. Number 9, return to the moon. After decades with almost no traffic to the moon, space agencies, and now a space force, clamoured to land probes on the Earth's nearest neighbour in 2019, and the moonshot renaissance is just getting started.
Hey, not to mention, the Israelis went ahead and dropped a bunch of tardigrades on the moon when their things slammed into the surface. And
well, remember the Chinese rover found the goo as well? Remember it detected goo, and then that story just went away? We never heard anything more about it. Strange.
No, but where can I get number 10?
New depression drug. For the first time in decades, a fundamentally new drug became available for people with severe depression, but there are still big questions about the drug's effectiveness.
I would love to be a trial on that.
Yes, indeedy. Yes, indeedy. Oh, so there. Now, I'm sure people can probably think of their own top science stories. Some people
Absolutely.
might think they were all pseudoscience. I think the pig, or the monkey pig, was it monkey pig over in? I think that's really critical. I think that's a big story.
Well, same with the two babies that were born.
Yeah. That's the bigger CRISPR story.
Yeah, and the fact that it's not going to be so good for them.
And we also had Elon Musk showing us this year how the neural lace technology is going to go in.
Yeah.
That's got to be the biggest story of next year if that starts being commercial, or at least in
Wow.
trials.
Could you imagine?
Do you see that as the end of...
I can't imagine. No, personally, I can't imagine that technology so rapidly advancing to that form.
I know.
That fast.
Well, you can go
it's
into like getting a tattoo. You'll be able to go into a booth in the mall, and you don't have to go in for like brain surgery. This is done. You're in and out. Local anesthetic. Boom. Done.
That's what I mean. I mean, it's just to me, it's unheard of. But at the same time,
makes me think of Westworld, dude.
It does, but he's shown that concept to basically from concept to putting the product out there. A lot of companies take decades to do this. He's developing them in years, and that's a testament to him and his guy's freaking smart. He's a modern day Edison.
Yeah, definitely. It's you see when you see the equipment that puts the hair like neural lace in, you actually compare that to the TV show Westworld, and when they're making like the intro scene at the start, it's actually one of the same kind of, I don't know what you would call it. I think they call it the Da Vinci arm or something, and it does. It's amazing. And of course, TV shows, they do their research, right? So they've obviously looked at things that are out there, and I don't know. It's the weirdest of times. It's an exciting time. I know some people think this could be the end of humanity as we know it. Knife edge stuff, but I think there is no way of winding this back. It's going to come. And I think that's why Musk's doing it. It's inevitable.
Yeah, and goes back to the thing where we have to look at the benefits as well instead of looking at the negatives, right? And this is going to help a lot of people, especially a lot of people with like neurological disorders and issues like that. People with seizures, all kinds of just different things. Parkinson's. It's definitely going to help. And the thing is as long as he keeps it like an open source platform to where people can choose to load whatever kind of software or programs they want into it, then I don't see that it being such a bad thing. Now, if it's some kind of a proprietary thing where you don't know exactly what the source code of the software, is, then that's where there's a problem, right? And then, of course, as with anything, if it has any kind of internet connectivity, then
and that with 5G being so deployed everywhere, I mean, it would stand to reason that that's why they're deploying this now, because you kind of need that 5G to be able to make this successful.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be connected to the internet at some level, and so you got to look at the security aspects of that, because then we're talking about some pretty sci-fi kind of dystopic.
I mean, dystopian. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah, where you have mind hacking.
Well, unless
right?
he creates his own quantum machine, he's either going to have to go for a D-Wave, a Google, or a Rigetti. Now, Rigetti fascinate me because they're the ones that don't shout about anything. They're so kind of, you don't ever hear them at all talked about much, but they're working on a quantum computer. But I think, Scott, and I'll get your take on this, guys, I think you'll definitely get some people rushing to take this kind of technology. You'll also get some people who will be vehemently against it. And you might get some who, they aren't against it, it's just not for them, but then they'll have the option of going to augmented reality. Maybe glasses, you'll have the digital layover we were talking about earlier on with holograms. And again, we're all going to be different. It's almost as if we're separating. There's going to be different realities all going on at once,
Like that game, was it Deus Ex?
Deus Ex, yeah, Deus Ex. Yeah, I love that, man.
Yeah, and you had like the augmented people, and then you had the people that weren't augmented, and then there was like this kind of dilemma in society between both augmented and non-augmented.
I think we're reaching that
storyline.
It really
is.
We're
reaching.
Yeah. I mean, art mirrors life. Life mirrors art. It's definitely on it.
The creators of that game, the people who created that, they basically kind of projected to what they saw in the future, and they wrote a really compelling storyline. Mankind Divided. Yeah, there it is. And yeah, it's very, very interesting how the direction we're going. And
yeah, it's definitely the way we're going, boys. Definitely the way we're going. You taking one, Joe? Yes.
Oh.
Is Joe going to take the chip, do we think?
Oh, I got it. It's mine.
Think so?
All mine.
It's definitely coming, and I like how...
I'll take two.
Yeah, there's a trailer out there. There's actually a little movie. I think that was it there. They had like a kind of... I'll drop it in the chat room at TFR. It's worth a watch, but this shows you the kind of reality that we're about to be entering into, folks. Check this out. And then people watch that and look at that. I mean, it shows you some of the things, some of the, like the new humans. Oh, hang on, I've just kind of clicked off that there. Wait a minute. Yeah, crazy. Would you take a bionic eye? Like if you could have an eye that could see into the infrared, and you wouldn't need to.
I would totally go for something that if it was to help me be more mobile or something, then yeah.
Right. You see, there's the thing. One man might see this as really bad, almost evil technology, and then it could give somebody an entirely different quality of life that they would never have had before. How can that be denied from a person? So, in this game that we're talking about, I think it's really good. Even if you just kind of read up about it, this is where we're coming to, where there is a split in society. Almost like, will it be the people that take the technology that are the mainstreamers, and people that don't, they'll be the outliers kind of thing? Or do you think the people that like biohack and upgrade themselves, will they be on the almost not outcasts, but in a tribe of their own, a minority kind of group?
Who knows? It'll be interesting to see how that.
I'll tell you another good one as well. Humans, the TV show, they deal with this. The robot uprising, they become sentient and realize that they're slaves and fight back. And stranger.
I am so seared lol shalom peeps.
Shalom, yes. You know, we can't even get on with each other just now. And our only difference is colours, belief systems, the terms of what you call.
Yeah, right. It's the easy stuff if you think about it.
A real exciting time. The best of times, the worst of times, interesting of times, and we are ready. Have you got it, boys? The chalice of woo.
Friend Thomas,
If I turn that
it's
upside
your
down.
turn. We consent to you taking over.
Yeah, we consent. We passed the cone. The cone of it's now passed. Consider it passed. It's passed on. We are almost out of here. Yes, I might take the chip just for the purpose of the show.
Dude, I'd be like running 3 graphics cards at once.
You reckon? Maybe you could just stream it right from your head, dude.
That's what I'm saying, but could you imagine like the processing power if you had like 2 of them?
Really good video for people to watch as well. Before I go, TED Talk, doesn't matter, we're out of here. Yeah, I was getting absolutely defeated by the music there, but before I go, TED Talk, there's a video, let me just put, I'm not going to play it, but this is well worth a watch. It's the guy that, where is it? The guy that spent a week in virtual reality earlier on in the year. He's talking about his experience. Come on. Filter this week. Yeah, there it is there. I'll send that link to the chat room, but really good video, folks. Very interesting. There's a pesky advert there just now. I just want to show you the guy with it on. 5 seconds, then we'll wrap up. We'll get out of here. But thanks a lot for tuning in tonight, folks. This has been a blast. But this is a really good kind of video to watch if you're into the techie stuff. There you go there. What I learned from spending a week in virtual reality. It's a guy called Jack Wilmot. And that's TEDx Vienna. So yeah.
Tell Joe to stop his mind control.
He does, doesn't he? He mind controls me and Scott. That's what it is. He really does, folks. He controls us. Just before we come on air, he gets like a wristwatch out, and then he plays like Unirock's mad MK Ultra microphone. I tell you, it sends us into a right tizzy. Marty, JP, Robin, Blue Days. Blue Days was first in the chat today. Congratulations, Blue. Happy for you, and I'm happy that you managed to get back into the show. We got Kirby Key in there. Let me turn up a little tunes. I'll do a couple more names before we go, Scott, before we get back to it. Where's my music gone? Aha, there it is. We'll get the New World Order on Scott. We like that one, don't we? For the chat room, yes. We've got Lisa Rue in there. Hashtag lurkers rule. Don't be a lurker. Come on, we don't bite in here unless you ask nicely. People in mental hospitals get worse during a full moon, says Kirby. Absolutely. Lunar lunatics. We've got JP in there. Brett. Paranormal Portal. Yes, he's been in the wings stretching the cone. the chalice has been passed. Remember to head on over to TFR Live or to Brent's YouTube channel to continue with the Paranormal Fest. We've got Hedy in there. A big shout out to Hedy, Mike, Scott. We could be here all night. Guy. And before we go, that's what I'll do. We had a few super chats coming into tonight. So we had DJ Bison. He says, what you call a rabbit with a curly funny bit. And yeah, you probably triggered the algorithm with that right at the top of the show, but that's okay, we roll like that. And then we had Robin Davies, I need to take a Chittahoorie. And then Guy Wilson, Mum told me not to come here. Woot, Renzo Scriber, Great Science Talk, Guy Wilson, I love beams of power. Robin Davies, drinketh from the furry chalice of woo. And then Guy Wilson, I'm so scared. Shalom peeps, and tell Joe to stop his mind control. We'll be back tomorrow, folks. It's been absolutely a blast hanging with all of you. Remember, if you want to become a member of the channel and unlock our amazing arsenal of emojis with AOC front and center, please consider becoming a member. But you don't have to. I understand Christmas is coming up, but we would love to welcome you into the inner sanctum. Yes, the VIP Wookiee cave, if you will. So, for another time, ladies, gents, interdimensional creepers, and anyone else who may be lurking out there, we are out of here, and I've got one thing left to say. Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.
Good.